Everyone thinks Izuku is quirkless, even himself. When All Might crushes Izuku's dreams of becoming a hero, Izuku shuts himself into his house for a year, and emerges with a newfound quirk, a lesson in confidence, and a powerful body. His quirk, Primal Instinct, lets him access his primal cat ancestors to transform into a wide range of felines, from your regular housecat to a full-grown big cat. Now with a quirk, can Izuku become a hero? Can he overcome the pressure and obstacles? His whole life, Izuku had been told that he was powerless. Midoriya Izuku, a resident in the Musutafu district of Japan, was a part of the 20% of the population that was quirkless, meaning they didn't have a superpower. His whole life, he had been bullied, ridiculed, and demeaned. At the age of 4, when Izuku came back from the quirk doctor to tell his best friend Bakugo Katsuki, nicknamed Kukin, Bakugo exploded with anger. And not out of sympathy for his friend's misfortune. No, he was disappointed with himself for ever being nice to a useless, quirkless piece of trash. So all through elementary school, Izuku was pointed at, laughed at, and was talked dirty about. Middle school came, and Bakugo and his gang became more violent and physical with their attacks. Bakugo wasn't afraid to use his explosion quirk to get what he wanted, and everyone in the school was scared of the bully and his powerful quirk. And forget about the teachers standing up for Izuku, because what's the point in sticking up for a powerless, useless human? But Izuku always wanted to be a hero. He watched videos of heroes defeating villains, he took notes, he fanboyed. And he never gave up on his dream, no matter how many times he was told it was impossible. But his whole life changed with the words from his idol and the number one hero, All Might. Izuku walks down the road to his house, looking over his journals. Man, Kukin really did a number on them. Haha, I have found the perfect disguise. A slime villain suddenly appears, and Izuku startles. Millions of thoughts cram in his brain, but there's one main one: run. Izuku scrambles to get away, but the villain grabs him and starts to absorb Izuku, drowning his body in green sludge. You are the perfect vessel, he ha 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 ha. Struggling, Izuku tries to remain conscious, but is quickly losing strength and his vision becomes dark. Damn it. Izuku thinks. If only I had a quirk. Texas smash. Suddenly massive amounts of air pressure hits him, and the slime villain is blown away from Izuku. I am here. All Might shouts. All Might. Izuku screams, his inner fanboy being unleashed. I'm such a huge fan. Please sign my notebook book. Izuku stutters, holding out his notebook. Ha ha ha. Of course, young man. All Might scribbles away his signature, and hands it back to Izuku, who is squealing and jumping around. Now I must go, for evil never rests. All Might turns, when suddenly Izuku stops him. Wait. All Might, please, I have an important question. My time limit is running out, but I must answer this young man's question quickly. Yes, All Might boomed. Izuku looked up at All Might with determination and hope filled in his eyes. Can I become a hero, even if I'm quirkless? Young man, I'm sorry, but you cannot. You would only get in the way, and your quirklessness would make you a liability. If you cannot protect yourself, then you cannot protect others. Izuku's heart lurched. He knew that All Might was right, and that was the reality he lived in. If you want to help people, become a police officer or something. Now young man, I must go. Goodbye. All Might leapt away into the distance, leaving a broken Izuku standing there. All Might is right, Izuku thought. I know that. A tear slipped down Izuku's cheek, then another, and then tears started pouring. Izuku dropped to his knees, not even bothering to wipe away his tear-stained face. He looked at his hands with his dull, lifeless eyes. I will train away the tears. I will train away the sadness. I will not cry again. Izuku vowed to himself. I will become better than anyone ever thought I could be. I'll show Katsuki that I am not just a Deku. I'll show All Might that I'm not just a quirkless dreamer boy. Izuku thought. Looking to the sky, Izuku vowed to himself, I will make an impact on this world. I will make this body of mine into something that will represent everything that ever happened to me, the bullying, the countless rejections, the beating and taunting and all of it. And with this resolution, Izuku marched back to his house. Izuku dropped out of school, and instead took extremely advanced college courses online. His intellect was already impressive before, with an IQ of 134, but he promised himself he would be better. He began doing 30 squats, push-ups, leg lifts, arm lifts and other exercises, along with 30 minutes running on the treadmill. He increased to 60 reps, then 100 reps, until he was not even 1 month into his training and he was doing 200 reps. Slowly, over the course of a year, Izuku's results were beginning to show. At 6 months, he had a muscular build with six-pack abs. His hair grew long, as he never left his house, and seldom left his basement, where he spent most of his days. He not only trained his intellect and body, but also meditated and hardened his emotions. He trained with swords, nunchucks, bowstaffs, and a bow and arrow, teaching himself how to use the weapons, and eventually had incredible techniques in not only swordsmanship and marksmanship, but also in martial arts such as taekwondo, karate, krav maga. Izuku also trained in the most deadly known martial arts techniques, such as Bakuder, which translates to pounding a lion, capoeira, sambo, and kajukenbo. I don't know, I just looked up deadly martial arts and copied the easiest to pronounce. He also stayed on a strict diet and stuck to his harsh regime, pushing his body to the limits and beyond. Something peculiar began to happen to Izuku as well. Since he never went outside and never had the need to cut his hair, he grew it out. Shorter than Aizawa's, but still long-ish, and his well-kept dash. I might draw a pic later on. Izuku started to get strong urges for meat, and sometimes his eyesight would flicker and he'd be able to see, smell, hear, and in general, sense things very well. He was also more aware of his surroundings, and his hair started to grow quicker. Izuku knew something was up, so he did research. Of course he did. Who do you take him for? And after studying himself, he concluded that he indeed did have a quirk. His quirk, called Primal Instinct, allowed him to tap into animal senses. But that wasn't all. He could also transform into any animal, as long as the animal is a part of the big cat family. So this ranged from your regular housecat to a full-grown lion or tiger. He could also choose what age he wanted to transform into. So for example, if he were to transform into a leopard, he could transform into a baby, a teen, or an adult. To test his ability out, Izuku stood still and concentrated on becoming a panther. He focused and tapped into his primal instinct. Suddenly, his body began to shift in form and change. Black fur sprouted along his body, and Izuku's limbs became longer and leaner. Black ears popped up from his head, and he grew a long, thin tail. His mouth became more animalistic, and his teeth grew sharper. Izuku felt his body tingling with excitement and anticipation, and he was so aware of his environment. The feeling was incredible, and Izuku felt so powerful and confident. His eyes snapped open to reveal beautiful, glowing, emerald green eyes that had black cat-like pupils and slits, like cat eyes, that you could easily get lost in. Izuku tentatively put a paw forward, and leaped forward. He suddenly sprang forward with incredible power and speed, and Izuku was shocked with the strength he had. It felt like he was flying, until he went smack into the wall. He promptly became human again, and retained his clothing somehow. I don't know where it goes, don't question it, I am lazy, okay, ouch. Izuku thought as he rubbed his nose. I guess I'll have to work on that. And oh boy did Izuku work. He practiced his quirk, and he found out more and more about it as he went. For example, transforming and staying in his state of animal required lots of mental training, but nothing that couldn't be worked on. Izuku also discovered that he could partially transform, by accidentally sprouting a set of lion teeth while he was digging into his fresh meat. Izuku also had a drawback of sorts. There was a limit to how long he could be transformed, which depended on his mental capacity. If he had strong mental capacity, then he could stay transformed for a long period of time. Also, Izuku's hair needed to be a certain length for him to be able to access his quirk, but if he frequently used his quirk, then he could get away with slightly long but still not super long hair. Izuku theorized that the cause of this was because animals have lots of fur, and if he was going to transform into big cats, he needed a sort of route to connect him to the cats. Basically, since his mental capacity wasn't quite strong enough, he was never able to access his quirk. But since he started meditating while he was in his basement, his mental energy increased, and with the help of his hair, which served as an anchor to help him connect to his primal instinct, Izuku was able to get in touch with his quirk. Izuku began to train his quirk alongside his regular regime, and soon became very fluent with using it. With his grit and determination, Izuku shattered the limits of his quirk, something that is very rare in his society and requires incredible stamina and resilience. Few people have been documented to be able to do such a feat, and all were incredibly powerful already and trained countless years to do so. Only a select few ever have the potential to break the limits of their quirk and unlock the beyonds, and they usually don't even know they can do this. Even if they have the innate ability, many people aren't able to access it, even with rigorous training. But Izuku unlocked this legendary power within months, and mastered it to its fullest. However, he had a price to pay. While he became incredibly strong in his quirk, which was already powerful, became even more powerful and had no limits/drawbacks, Izuku became bland. While he still retained the status of a hybrid between a cinnamon roll and an insanely hot snack, and he did still have emotions, his emotions were rare and dulled. Like, if he was a hybrid cinnamon roll/insanely hot snack, then he was basically a tribrid between a cinnamon roll, an insanely hot snack, and a mini Aizawa. Note, in the future, Aizawa will take a liking to Izuku, bit of Dadzawa, third-person POV. When Izuku finally emerged from his basement of doom, as his mother called it, his mom was astounded with the change. Her son went from a small, flustered boy to a tall, muscular, handsome/cute man. Somehow he's handsome and cute. It's the power of Izuku, people. Izuku's hair was grown out so it was slightly longer than before. He cut it as short as he could so it didn't get in the way and he could still use his quirk. Look for explanation above. I will explain his quirk fully and more later. Izuku's eyes were slightly lighter and they almost glowed. Izuku's hair is like this, except not as straight and more fluffy, like his old hair but not curly, fluffy. Also instead of orange Izuku's hair is green with light green highlights that sort of seem to glow. Yes, I changed his hair color slightly. And the anime that this is from is Bleach, and it's Danga Ichigo if you want to know. His mother also noticed that his clothes didn't fit him anymore, as he was now much taller, broad-shouldered and toned. She could easily see through the tight-fitting shirt his rock-hard, toned 8-pack ABS, and he had toned muscles, well, everywhere. Readers, I know what you're thinking, it's not like that. No. Izuku looked at her and smiled, and she knew that despite the massive change in appearance, he was still her son. Izuku Uyuu, Inko cried, rushing towards him. She scooped him up into a big hug, tears flowing down her cheeks. Izuku hugged her back, tears glistening in his bright emerald eyes. She only saw glimpses of her son, and this was the first time she had really gotten a chance to see him. After they got through the emotions, Izuku explained everything to Inko, starting from his constant bullying and rejection, up until All Might, and explained his training in quirk. When he was finally done, Inko's eyes had prepared a new batch of tears, that immediately began to pour out like a waterfall. Mom, are you okay? What's happening? Did you get a second quirk? Izuku frantically tried to help, not knowing what to do. He is still sorta dense. I'm just so sorry you had to go through that, Inko wailed. I never thought that you were being bullied for your quirklessness, and you suffered so much. Inko cried while her eyes became water geysers. Mom. Izuku sniffed. Wait. Izuku. Let's think about this. Mom, thank you for caring so much about me. Izuku sniffed. Izuku. Remember what we talked about. Don't do this, consider the ramifications. If you do this I will end you along with this story. Izuku cried, and his eyes too became water geysers, tears gushing out of them. Together they wailed and hugged each other, full of emotion. Izuku no. It's splashing all over the fourth wall. I'm trying to type. Author-san wailed, but in vain. Author-san, it's just beautiful. Izuku sobs, his eyes preparing for another round. Izuku please. I'm already soaked, so is poor fourth wall-san. You and Inko will break the fourth wall with your tears, they're too powerful. Author-san tries to hold back the water from bursting through, desperately applying gorilla glue to the cracks. It's too late, Izuku wails. Izuku POV. Izuku stayed up during the night training, even though he was already in perfect shape. Man, I've become too used to getting no sleep. Izuku thought as he reached his 500th push-up, which he was doing with one hand, and the other hand was lifting a 100 pounds dumbbell. Placing the dumbbell on the ground, Izuku hopped to his feet. Alright then, Izuku said aloud, time to go for a quick jog. He quickly pulled on a hoodie and ran outside. Jogging, Izuku thought about the UA entrance exam. Knowing UA, it would probably be pretty difficult, and there would also be a twist. Izuku continued to jog through his neighborhood, muttering to himself. A few cats that were hidden away in the alleys came out and walked alongside him. They were attracted to him because they sensed he was a cat like them, except stronger. Izuku thought. I guess I'm like their alpha. It's probably because of my quirk and how it allows me to change into cats, and I can use it for big cats also. They probably feel familiar with me and look up to me. Izuku went on a whole new muttering spree, but the cats didn't seem to mind. In fact, they seemed to enjoy it. One black cat with green eyes suddenly leapt from a rooftop and landed on Izuku's fluffy head. Perched on his head, the cat began to make itself at home and nestled itself in Izuku's fluffy dark green hair before it promptly fell asleep. Izuku always had a soft spot for cats, and this one appealed to him particularly. Reaching his hand up above his head, he scratched the cat's ear. Do you want to come home with me? Izuku asked the cat. I could use the company. The cat woke up and yawned, and then nuzzled against Izuku's hand, purring. Izuku cracked a smile, and continued on his way, with the black cat atop his head and the many others following him pleased. As Izuku continued to mutter and jog, with the cats trotting after him, he didn't notice he was getting into a bad neighborhood, and it was still dark out. Suddenly, a man sprung out of the shadows and aimed a gun at Izuku. Don't move, the man shouted. Hand over your wallet or else you'll get to feel what it's like to have a bullet in your head. Izuku grinned, and confusion crossed the villain's face. This can be called self-defense, then, right? Izuku smirked. Don't think about doing anything, cause I'm the one with a gun at your face. Izuku rushed forward with alarming speed before the villain could even react, and in one swift movement, Izuku kicked the gun out of the villain's hands and spin-kicked the villain in the torso. The villain was pushed back with incredible force by Izuku's kick, and slammed into a wall, making a crack in the wall. Izuku caught the gun that he kicked into the air and pointed it at the villain. This was all in a matter of seconds, that's how fast Izuku was. "Oh, what were you saying about a gun?" Izuku smirked widely, which oddly resembled Aizawa's classic **T eating grin. The villain looked at Izuku in shock, then fear, and finally anger. "I have nothing to lose now anyway." The villain lunged at Izuku, pulling out a knife that he had hidden in his coat. "Whoa whoa whoa," Izuku exclaimed as he easily dodged the villain's mad swiping. "Careful there, you could end up hurting someone," Izuku remarked. Growling in frustration, the villain plunged towards Izuku again, only to be met with a rapid set of harsh martial arts combos. The villain choked, unable to fight back or even keep up with Izuku's rapid movements. After Izuku delivered the final blow, the villain smashed into the ground so hard he created a small crater. "Oops, I went overboard." "Well, it's not my fault the villain was weak," Izuku sighed. Pulling out his phone, Izuku dialed 911 and told them that there was an unconscious villain on the street. He gave his location, and jogged away with the cats, who just calmly sat by while the fight was going on, with complete confidence in Izuku. Aizawa POV holy **T a certain hero remarked after Izuku was gone. He knew All Might would get mad at him for stealing his line, but this situation certainly called for a remark like that. He quickly pulled out his phone and called 911, and explained that he was there to take the villain into custody. Aizawa jumped down from his perch on a lamppost and examined the body. The villain was knocked out cold, and had taken quite a beating. But what shocked Aizawa the most was that even though he erased the kid's quirk to ensure no illegal quirk usage occurred, the kid didn't use his quirk. "Geez," Aizawa thought. "I've gotta meet this kid again." The kid intrigued him, as he had incredible strength, an awesome grin, and the cats loved him. Aizawa loves cats, and he knows that the kid must be one hell of a kid to garner the respect of those cats. Cats, after all, are supreme judges of character and power. Grinning slightly, Aizawa wrapped the unconscious villain in his capture cloth and jumped away on the rooftops to the nearest police station. He would find the kid later, and then he would see what to do. But one thing's for sure, Aizawa was excited. "It's been a long time since I found someone who actually has potential," the underground hero thought. Potential not only as a great hero, but also to inherit Aizawa's advanced sleeping techniques, and possibly Aizawa's Grandmaster Sleeper title. After all, Aizawa saw how huge that kid's eye bags were, and how bloodshot his eyes were. His hair was also long like Aizawa's own. Yes indeed, he found quite an interesting kid. Almost as sleep-deprived and antisocial looking as Aizawa himself, possibly even rivaling Aizawa. 2 days out from the basement, 10 days from the UA entrance exam, Izuku was petting his new black cat at his house, thinking of what to name him. Izuku went to get the cat checked up and registered, and found out that along with having no name or owner, the cat was a healthy male. One thing that was different about this cat, though, was the interesting scar on its muzzle. It was small, but still noticeable, but Izuku didn't mind. He thought of it like a battle scar, his own little warrior. Little warrior, that's it. Izuku sprung from the couch he was sitting on, and the cat yelled protestingly from the sudden dismissal of Izuku's warm hand. Izuku remembered reading something in the basement in an ancient language, which Izuku of course studied and knew how to read, write, understand, and speak. In this language, Kalman meant strong and mighty, which would basically translate into English as a warrior. If Izuku changed it, yes. Izuku started pacing now, muttering up a storm and tapping his finger to his mouth, deep in concentration. "That's it," Izuku exclaimed in victory. "You," he spun and pointed his finger at the cat. "Muro," the cat inquired, cocking its head to the left. "Your name is now Kamen. It is loosely translated for little warrior." Kamen perked up, his green emerald eyes showed obvious pleasure at the new name. "Now that it's almost time for the UA entrance exams, I should brush up on my skills," Izuku thought aloud. "Guess I'll go to Dagaba Municipal Beach and clean up the trash for 3 days, shouldn't be too much work for me." As Izuku started to make his way out of the door to jog over to Dagaba Beach, little Kamen sprung from his perch and latched himself onto Izuku's back with his sharp claws. It didn't bother Izuku, since he had a tolerance for pain, but he tried to spin around in shock. Kamen, though, stayed securely fastened to Izuku's back. Kamen. Izuku tried spinning around to see, but that didn't work out, for obvious reasons. Izuku tried to reach his hand back and remove the cat, but Kamen swatted his hand away and meowed in protest. Izuku sighed. Okay, fine. Be like that. And so Izuku marched out the door with the cat latched onto his back like a leech. Any passerby that saw this strange scene would immediately tell you that they could have sworn that cat was grinning with victory. 15 minutes later. SpongeBob voice, "Ah, that fresh air. The sandy beach and the rolling waves. And that giant freaking pile of trash. That means we're here," Izuku stated to Kamen, who meowed in agreement. Kamen, during the ride for him, not for Izuku, had switched to a more comfortable position that seemed to be his favorite, his throne atop Izuku's fluffy dark green hair. "Alrighty. Let's do this." Izuku went over towards the trash, and started lifting, without using his quirk. He already did plenty of quirk training at his own house, and besides, this place was best for a body workout without the quirk. Aizawa POV man, who's picking up trash here? At this time? Aizawa grumbled from his hiding spot. Oh well, I'll just sleep while I can. Being the expert sleeper he is, Aizawa fell asleep in his yellow caterpillar sleeping bag, which was buried within the trash. Aizawa was buried in the trash. Sleeping. Ha! What prowess! Izuku exclaimed, waking Aizawa up. Shifting around until he was facing the boy, Aizawa grumbled, quiet now. It's early in the morning here. Oh yeah, I hear you. Sorry, excuse me. I'll clean up a different spot, the boy answered, with a monotone, emotionless voice akin to Aizawa's own. As the boy walked away, Aizawa could get a clear full view of the boy. That kid, Aizawa realized. And the damn cat on his head, too. Slightly grinning, Aizawa attempted to get out of the pile of trash, but kinda flopped over and tumbled to the ground. Oh, I'm still in my sleeping bag, Aizawa thought aloud. The kid with the fluffy dark green hair turned around to look at Aizawa, unsurprised. Aizawa could see now, this kid had emerald highlights in his hair and his eyes, that intelligent emerald green almost seemed to be glowing, along with his messy hair. He looked to be pretty tall and well-built, and Aizawa could make out the faint outline of an 8-pack under the boy's shirt, which must mean that he is very toned, muscular, and his 8-pack is really prominent. Humph, Aizawa thought to himself. This will be interesting. Izuku POV the trash man clambered out of his sleeping bag, and Izuku noted that the sleeping bag was very nice, banana yellow edition, only from the top makers. Izuku had one of his own, but his was in the other rare color, eye-bleeding highlighter green. Izuku swears, that's actually what it's called. Oh, you're the man from yesterday that was watching me, Izuku droned. Mild surprise flashed across the man's face, but it was quickly covered. Yeah, the man croaked out. I figured you stopped me. Kid, do you know who I am? Of course I do, you're the underground erasure hero, Eraserhead. Your quirk, Erasure, allows you to erase someone's quirk just by looking at them. But once you blink, the effect is over, and a drawback is dry eye, which is one of the reasons why you have such large eye bags and bloodshot eyes. Rather impressive, really. Your real name is Aizawa Shota, and you teach the Class 1A Hero course at UA High School. Or you will, this year. And I must say, Izuku continued, that your super sleeping bag T model Tie 34, rare edition banana yellow is in excellent condition. Is that bulletproof Kevlar lining I see? Of course it is, my eyesight is excellent. Beyond excellent, actually. I should actually improve on my eyesight, along with the other sensory aspects of my quirk. Izuku droned on, muttering. Aizawa just stood there with a blank expression, observing the teenager. And then maybe I could get support items to make it so that my clothing is easier to wear when I shift, and then I could also use that opportunity to dash Kid. Izuku looked up from his intense muttering session. Kid, I'm thinking you have some potential. Not that much though. I'd like to test you, Aizawa challenged Izuku. Looking up to meet his eyes, Izuku responded, sure. I could use a good fight. Aizawa POV this kid. Aizawa thought to himself, grinning internally. He has an incredible intellect, and seems to have great reflexes, fighting style, and all without using his quirk. I'll take him to UA, and have Nizu evaluate his intelligence. I'm sure they'll get along great. Aizawa smirked at the thought of Nizu meeting Izuku, but then shuddered a bit. While it is essential, I'm sure that Nizu might have a little too much fun with this kid. Come with me, Aizawa told the kid, who looked at him, slightly confused. I'm going to bring you to UA, where the principal will evaluate you in a fight against me, and the principal will also evaluate your mind and intelligence. UA's principal, and the hero principal himself, whose race also a widely debated subject, and no one knows if he is a cat, a mouse, a bear, a thing, or all of them. Nezu, the teenager exclaimed. Aizawa merely lifted an eyebrow. How does he know all of this? Aizawa thought, but shrugged it off. I'm sure to find out with the help of Nizu. Yes, him. Come on, kid. Oh, what's your name? Aizawa asked. The teenager grinned and said Izuku. Izuku Midoriya. Well, come on then, Izuku. And the two jogged off to UA, with Kamen still napping atop Izuku's nest of fluffy hair. And the two jogged off into the sunset, is what I'd like to say, but that feels romantic. So no. And besides, it's the early morning, not the end of the day. Dawn, not dusk/sunset. Izuku POV I have to admit, when Aizawa brought me to UA, my outside appearance remained cool and unemotional, but inside I was a bit excited, like there was electricity crackling inside me. Maybe it was because I was excited for a fight with Aizawa, or to meet Nizu, someone who could actually match me in terms of analysis and intelligence. Whatever it was, there was something even stranger. I had this weird feeling about Aizawa. I felt sort of at home and peaceful around him. Probably my cat instincts, because the cats seemed to love him. As we walked along, cats came jumping down from trees and stalking out of the shadows to gather around me. Aizawa only raised an eyebrow, but for the most part remained neutral, except for the occasional glance at the cats and the rare moments where his fingers would wander to scratch a cat behind the ear. We quickly made our way to UA High School, and within seconds we arrived at the gates. The massive size of the building did not intimidate me, as I strode up with Izuku confidently towards the gates. We made our way through the building wordlessly, and since there were no students around as the new school year hadn't started up yet, there were only teachers. Izuku noticed that the teachers either nodded respectfully at Izuku or looked away with fear in their eyes. The teachers also eyed Izuku with interest, but none came close to the duo as Izuku would give them a glare if they stepped towards the boy. They arrived at a large door that labeled Principal's Office, enter if you dare. Izuku did dare. Izuku had informed the principal beforehand of their arrival, and the minute that Izuku gripped the doorknob and turned it, he knew something was amiss. Izuku opened the door, and immediately jumped with his knees tucked up to his chest, narrowly avoiding a short blade that sliced through the air. Izuku merely chuckled. Izuku landed with both feet planted, walked over to the blade lodged in the wall and pulled it out. He then walked back to the office, where the mouse-cat-bear thing was waiting, and handed the weapon to him calmly. I believe this is yours, Nizu-san. Excellent. Your reflexes are astounding, your agility and strength is commendable, and you analyzed that situation instantly and efficiently. Nizu complimented. Izuku, if you would leave us be in the office for a bit. Of course, Izuku, who was already half asleep in his sleeping bag, hopped/walked/flopped towards the door, and then flopped onto the floor behind the door, closing it behind him. A thump could be heard, and Izuku raised an eyebrow. He'll be fine, Nizu assured. Now, let's get down to business, shall we? When Izuku came out, there was already a crowd of pro-hero teachers waiting outside, who were very interested to see this interesting boy who Nizu of all cat/mouse/bear things would want to meet. When Izuku emerged, he and Nizu were chatting away, Izuku with his occasional mutterings that were now starting to sound more and more sadistic/creepy, and Nizu with his extremely sadistic laugh to Izuku's mutterings and comments. The two got along really well, which terrified all of the teachers. First Izuku brings this kid in, and now Nizu is friends with him. If this wasn't reason enough to fear this kid, he already looked like Izuku with his dark green hair falling over his face. His hair covered his eyes, and there was a dark shadow crossing his face, so you could only see a bright emerald glint from the darkness where his eyes should be. In addition, it didn't help that he was muttering in a way that was incredibly similar to Nizu's own sadistic laugh. And when Nizu announced to all of the teachers that Izuku would be learning from himself, Nizu, and Izuku, and would get in by recommendations, all the teachers were scared **+. Now, Izuku, let's go outside to the training grounds, where you will fight Izuku. I understand that with your IQ of 314, you can easily overcome Izuku using your intelligence, but I would like you to try to use only your physical abilities in QUIRK. Wait. All the teachers thought. He has an IQ of 314? That's even more than Nizu. Nizu has an IQ of 300, Izuku simply nodded in assent. Hey, Nizu-sensei, it sure is a pain to go down the stairs. Izuku trailed off. Nizu smiled, and replied sure, Izuku, go ahead. All of the teachers again thought Nizu and Izuku are already best friends, they know each other's thoughts. Scary. Izuku walked over to the side of the hallway, and opened up a window. He then placed a foot on the window ledge and hopped off out of the building to the ground. Everyone except Izuku and Nizu rushed to the window, only to see Izuku land perfectly on both feet, creating a small cloud of dust around him. Izuku looked back up at the window. Well, are you coming, Izuku-san? Izuku grinned, and hopped down after him. Where's Nizu-sensei? Izuku asked, and the principal popped out of Izuku's scarf and gave a thumbs up. Izuku and Izuku stood on opposite sides of the field, in their fighting stances. The field looked sort of like a Pokemon battlefield. There were teachers observing from the sidelines, and Nizu stood along the side as well, observing quietly. And then it began. Izuku lunged towards Izuku with alarming speed, and thrust out a fist. Izuku dodged to the side, and Izuku landed. Quickly, Izuku roundhouse kicked Izuku, who blocked it with his fist. Izuku continued with his attacks on Izuku, who would dodge or block them and observed Izuku. Come on, kid, show me what you're made of. Izuku grinned, and his hair rose up, along with his scarf. His eyes glinted red, and his scarf swirled around him mysteriously. Izuku lashed his scarf out, and Izuku narrowly dodged by jumping into the air. Phew, that was a close one, Izuku thought, but Izuku smirked. Before Izuku landed, Izuku thrust his scarf out at Izuku once more, securing around him strongly. Izuku tumbled to the ground, and Izuku deactivated his quirk. Come on, now, that was just too easy. Where is that strength that I saw in the alley? Izuku taunted, and Izuku's eyes glinted. Suddenly, he disappeared. Everyone, including Izuku, thought, what? Where did he go? Nizu just smiled knowingly. Izuku's scarf released, as Izuku disappeared, and Izuku retracted the scarf back to him. It revealed a small kitten, with striking emerald eyes. The kitten meowed and cocked its head, and Izuku felt a sharp pain in his heart. Many teachers on the sidelines said all, until the little, innocent kitten gave a creepy, not-so-innocent grin, and shifted into a gigantic white tiger, with the same bright green eyes. Izuku growled, and then lunged forward, strong legs propelling him at insane speeds. His paws thumped against the ground, and he extended his sharp claws. Izuku leapt, and his muscles rippled under his white fur with striking black markings. He opened his jaws, displaying an impressive set of pointy teeth, and landed on Izuku, pinning him to the ground and baring his fangs threateningly. Izuku managed to activate his quirk and erase Izuku's quirk, rendering him in human form. "Ha, I guess we're doing this the old-fashioned way, huh, Izuku-san?" "Yep. Prepare yourself," Izuku shouted back at Izuku. They charged at each other, and engaged in a rapid martial arts battle. For every blocked strike there was a counterattack, for every dodge there was a sweeping kick to the feet or an uppercut into the jaw. The teachers watched in awe as the two struck with their fists and feet with such precision, strength, and speed that you could barely even see the blows. But Izuku was slowly being pushed back by Izuku's sheer force. All of a sudden, Izuku grinned his classic *T-eating grin and jumped into the air, spinning with his scarf swirling around him. Izuku landed right on top of Izuku, striking him to the ground, and Izuku wrapped his capture tape around Izuku while keeping his quirk erased. "It's over," Izuku deadpanned, smirking. "You gave me quite the challenge, kid, but I've been a pro for a while now. You have room for improvement, but you definitely have some potential." Izuku complimented Izuku, releasing his scarf and returning it around his neck, his hair falling back down into place. Izuku got up from the ground, covered in dust. He then closed his eyes and did a weird martial arts pose that got most of the teachers confused, but some recognized the style. Suddenly opening his eyes, Izuku thrust his palm out, and all of the dust fell off of him. Izuku looked at him, impressed. "So you know the Shinsei Katu, the ancient martial arts form of release?" "Few do," Nizu told Izuku, who then explained his training and how he accessed the breaking limits power. Most of the teachers already went home, but the few who stayed complimented Izuku on his power and his technique. Nizu then told Izuku and the rest of the teachers that while Izuku would be entering UA through recommendations, he would also be training under Nizu and Izuku themselves up until that time to improve his technique. Izuku went home, pleased with himself. He found a place with people who understood him. He belonged, and he would be back tomorrow. He couldn't wait. After my fight with Izuku and meeting Nizu and everyone, I went back home to my basement and slept in my green sleeping bag. Well, tried. Some types of cats are nocturnal, so that affects me, and it causes me to have lack of sleep. So, I gained my normal amount of sleep, about 2 hours. Izuku told me to meet him at Dagaba Municipal Beach at 1 a.m., because he knows I'm awake at that time anyway. I pull on a loose shirt and some baggy pants, and I jog over to the beach. When I arrive, I see that Izuku is already waiting there. "You're late," he deadpanned. "No, I'm not." "See," I pull out my phone, check the screen. "Oh," I mumble as I see the screen flashes 1:18. Well, I meet his gaze, challenging him. "Do you blame me for being late?" "Humph. I guess not. Damn cocky brat." Izuku then grins, which kind of scares me. I remember how confident I was in our last battle, and how he put me to the ground. And I knew I was strong, and he wasn't even using his full strength. "These next 9 days will be hell for you. I'm going to put you through extreme harsh training to make you worthy of being a UA recommended student. I may have said you have potential, but not that much. I only said you had more than anyone else, and everyone else has 0. Izuku smirked even wider. "Do you understand? What makes you different is that you don't have 0 potential, which means I'm going to give you even worse hell than the ones who do have 0. At this point, Izuku was grinning widely in a very malicious, evil way. "Now, let's begin." Time skip 9 days later to the day of the UA entrance exam. BC I'm lazy. Advertisement. Time skip is brought to you by SpongeBob Corp. Call 197. Totally not copyright. I'm lazy. Or ignore this message. I was breathing heavily and sweating profusely as I was barely standing on the sand of Dagaba Beach. I finished cleaning up the whole beach in 9 days. Over these days, I not only cleaned the beach and got absolutely no sleep, but Izuku also trained with me relentlessly one-on-one. We had many sparring matches, in which all of them he won. I had come to fear him when he started to smirk, and when he was grinning widely I would know I'd be in for true hell on earth. It is now 4 o'clock in the morning, and the UA entrance exam begins at 8 a.m. I know I don't have to attend, what with being a recommended student and all, but I'm planning on going anyway, because I want to see the potential and analyze all of the candidates' quirks. Also, Izuku is dragging me along with him. Over these past 9 days, Izuku and I have become a little bit closer. Not in the way that we are friends, no, that's scary. But more like, I see him as the father figure that I never had. My mother always told me my father was working in an important job overseas, so I never really saw him, and my mother didn't like to talk about it too much. Izuku became kind of like the father I never had. I slap my cheeks to wake myself up and I jump on top of a rooftop, leaping from roof to roof until I get to UA. Izuku taught me how to do that, and not only is it efficient to avoid, humans, but also to avoid the even worse, media. The media has been all over the mysterious cleaning of Dagaba Beach, as it has now become a popular place for couples and others. Many people have many memories there, and so the media loves the idea of a sort of guardian angel? I don't really know, because I try to avoid the media as much as possible, like my Fathahem, Izawa. In addition to training with Izawa, I've also been having lessons with Nizu twice a day. Nizu and I have much in common, and we are the only ones who can really appreciate each other, because of our advanced intellects that are beyond the normal human mind. Oh, and also the fact that we both have, creepy habits. Once I reach UA, I go to Nizu's office, where we have another one of our discussions and he helps train my mind and teaches me important skills, like different strategies when encountering a villain in different situations, such as hostages, dangerous quirks, villain organizations, etc. Oh, and also the most important skill of all, lying/reverse psychology. Nizu helped me really understand the human mind in order to efficiently exploit it, Izuku. Nizu snaps me out of my trance. Ha! What? You were muttering again. Nizu smiles patiently. Oh, sorry, sensei, I reply, and we continue with our lesson. Say, Izuku, you're watching the exams, correct? Nizu smiles slightly, in which I nod yes. I know where he's going with this. I know him well enough to know when he has a plan hatching. Sure enough, his eyes glistened as if there was a light bulb going off in his head and illuminating his skull, through his eyes. Creepy, I know, just go with it, Izuku. Why don't you pretend to be one of the fellow candidates taking the exam? Then we can have you truly observe all of the different students, and you can even end up being a trial as a faux villain. Then we can see how the children react to that sort of situation. Nizu laughs his signature laugh, and I grin slightly. Yes, Nizu-sensei, that will work splendidly, and we laugh together heartily, knowing how much fun it will be to see the kids' reactions. I'll inform President Mike, Izawa, and the other proctors about the updated situation immediately. Oh, and Izuku, Nizu continued. Yeah, sensei, do try to act more sociable. Present a fake personality, maybe go with a stuttering, nervous, innocent personality. Your real disposition is not very suiting for this mission, and besides, you need to work on mastering the art of deception, Nizu exclaimed gleefully. I grin in response, and nod affirmative. I dismiss myself and prepare to shock the future students to their core. I grin to myself and let out a light chuckle as I glance at the clock on the wall in the hallway. It's almost time for the exams. I hop down to the gates of UA and hide in a tree nearby. I'll wait here until examens begin to come in. I think to myself as I quietly lay in wait. I will turn on them when they least expect it, and I will make Sensei and Izawa proud. The ends of my lips turn up slightly, and I know that this undercover mission will be quite fun. Izuku stood in front of the gates of UA. On the outside, a passerby would see a nervous, green-haired boy who looked like he was freaking out. But no one knew that Izuku was proud of himself for deceiving so well. Izuku stumbled forward, and fake shivered with nervousness. This should do it, he thought. How's this for deceit, Nizu-sensei? I look like a total stuttering, nerdy mess. Like my old self. Izuku's foot suddenly met a rock. Oh, this is a perfect chance for me to trip now, Izuku thought. Of course, he normally wouldn't have missed a step, but he has a part to play. Izuku went crashing down, and prepared himself for collision. But it never came. Opening his eyes that were squeezed tightly shut, he found himself floating in the air. Oh, sorry. I used my quirk on you without permission. A brown-haired girl with a round, rosy face apologized. She must have an zero-gravity quirk, Izuku thought. Time to lay the dweebiness on thick. Oh, air. Well thanks for helping me. I'm Izuku stuttered, then stopped. What should my name be? I need a fake name, let's come up with something quick. Got it, I'm Kaido Takashi. Nice to meet you. Wow, that was a good save. The girl smiled back and replied, I'm Okako Yurika. Takashi-san, are you nervous? Why yes, this is kinda overwhelming, huh? Definitely. Well, good luck, Takashi-san. The girl flashed another smile, and ran off. For good effect, Izuku stood there with a dumb look on his face. He quickly glanced up at the UA building one more time, and saw Izawa and Nizu looking down at him. Nizu gave him a thumbs up. Internally, Izuku smirked. It was time to get this show on the road. SpongeBob voice, a few moments later. Are you Ria-a-dai? President Mike shouted. He was met with silence. Izuku quietly observed the scene, focusing on keeping his muttering habits suppressed. He had a role to play, after all. He had to be more prominent when the exams actually started. As President Mike was explaining the rules of the exam, a boy with dark blue hair raised his hand and shouted out a question about the robots. Izuku tried to keep him contempt compressed. This impudent kid was blurting out questions like a rich entitled kid, and he didn't even allow present Mike to finish. Izuku knew what the exam was all about beforehand, being Nizu and Aizawa's protégés, and being a highly recommended student and all. Present Mike answered the question, and the examens were released into one large sector, with thousands of robots. Yes, I know that is different from the canon, it is intentional. When Izuku arrived at the sector, he spotted the stuck-up guy and the upbeat girl. He went over to both of them and made friends with them. He then went around to a bunch of other examens and made friends with them too, then gathered them all. He explained his idea that they should work together because if they were all together in a city, then that must mean that they must work together and help each other, like true heroes. Aiza, as Izuku now learned that was the Blunet's name, thought Izuku's insight and realization of another part of the test was impressive. Uraraka also agreed with Izuku, and so Izuku and his band of examens, along with Uraraka and Aiza, all helped each other out when the exam started. Izuku was doing a good job of following Nizu's orders, and was waiting for Nizu's signal to turn the tables against his so-called friends. I did a good job of deceiving them. I feel almost bad that I have to turn against them. Almost. Izuku thought as he helped his friends smash the robots into the ground. The truth is, Izuku knew that while he learned more about his friends, he also judged that some of them had some potential, and others had almost none. He would report this information back to Nizu later. All of a sudden, a siren went off in the city. 15 minutes left. 15 minutes left, examens. The final boss level obstacle has been released. 20 points for whoever defeats it. Present Mix's voice came shouting out, ringing throughout the city. He didn't need a megaphone, because his quirk, voice, allowed him to be his own super powerful megaphone. Izuku stopped, and smirked a little. This was the signal that Nizu told him to wait for. Takashi. Uraraka stopped and glanced back at him, confused. They said we have 15 minutes left and there's a boss level obstacle on the loose, we have to hurry. What are you doing? Uraraka trailed off as she saw my creepy grin. Aiza turned around to see what was wrong, and the others followed suit. Sorry, guys. It's really too bad for you. I grinned even wider, which caused some of my friends to stumble back a little in surprise. Even some other examens came over to see what was happening. You see, I never was your friend. I looked at each of them dead in the eye. I saw their shocked expressions, mixed with confusion and fright. I am the final obstacle. I shout out, and I let my body morph and transform into 380-kilogram Siberian tiger that was towering over the examens. Izuku let out a mighty roar that caused many examens to flee in terror. Uraraka and Aiza had horror painted all over their face. Ha, Izuku thought. They're probably really hurt that I betrayed them and lied to them. This is too good, and they didn't even know this was my quirk. Roaring once more, Izuku lunged forward at the examens, claws sheathed so he wouldn't wound the examens badly. Nizu said minimal damage so UA wouldn't get too many lawsuits. And Nizu also knew just how powerful Izuku was, even before he started training with Aizawa and Nizu himself. Izuku swatted the remaining examens away with one mighty swoop of his paw. Izuku continued to knock down the examens again and again. Aiza and Uraraka fled the scene, shocked about Izuku. They probably decided I was too much of a challenge, and they couldn't bear to hurt their precious friend. They were weak. They'd probably get in because they don't have zero potential and they scored a few points. An explosion blasted Izuku in the face, causing him to stumble back a little. He opened his bright green eyes and what he saw made even him shocked a little. He saw his former childhood friend and former bully, Katsuki. Bakugo Katsuki. His quirk, explosion, allows him to secrete nitroglycerin like sweat from his palms and ignite it at will to create, yep, you guessed it, explosions. Izuku always admired Katsuki, no matter how harshly he bullied Izuku, but things were different now. It's been a year since Izuku last saw Katsuki, and Izuku changed drastically since they last met. He developed not only a quirk, but incredible strength and an even better mind. Izuku wasn't the same old Deku that Katsuki knew. And besides, Katsuki didn't know that the tiger was Izuku. Grinning in his tiger form, which was kind of difficult, Izuku changed form from a tiger straight into a lion. Letting his primal instincts take over, Izuku lunged at Katsuki and engaged in a fierce battle. Izuku would swipe and claw at Katsuki, claws sheathed, of course, and Katsuki would blast Izuku back with his explosions. Both boys were having some fun, as they finally found someone worthy. Izuku was glad he finally got to kick Katsuki's ass. In a final attack, Izuku charged at Katsuki, his powerful legs propelling him forward. Katsuki was breathing heavily, but he still got up to face Izuku's final attack. Die already, UF *king housecat, Katsuki shouted, in which Izuku roared fiercely in response. Katsuki swung both of his hands together and created a giant explosion with a huge blast. Howitzer impact, Katsuki screamed. Izuku roared, and the smoke of the explosion cleared. Katsuki thought he finally did it, until Izuku rushed out of the smoke unscathed. Izuku grinned as he recalled how he quickly darted to the side, dodging Katsuki's final move and came out of the smoke, using it as a cover to conceal himself. Roaring, Izuku pounced on top of Katsuki and landed with a thump. Katsuki was crushed under the weight of the giant lion, and was rendered unconscious due to Izuku knocking the wind out of Katsuki. Recovery Girl came around and handed out healing gummies to everyone. "Oh dear," she muttered when she came to Katsuki. She turned to face Izuku, who was still in lion form. "Boy, I thought I told you to go easy on these children. Honestly, you're almost as bad as All Might and Eraserhead." She scolded me roughly. "Now shift into something more useful so you can help me carry this boy back to my office." Yeesh. Recovery Girl can be scary sometimes, Izuku thought as he shifted forms directly into a large, fluffy snow leopard. Recovery Girl placed the limp Katsuki on Izuku's back, and she walked alongside the snow leopard as they made their way back to her office. Along the way, many examines looked at Izuku with awe, adoration, or with slight fear. Even though he was a large snow leopard that could be very dangerous, Izuku looked cute. He had fluffy light grayish-white snowy fur with black/dark gray leopard spots and startling bright emerald eyes, and an even fluffier, plush tail that swished back and forth as he walked. Some examines reached out to brush his fur, which Izuku didn't protest. He didn't really mind, as it kind of was his duty to calm down the examines after Izuku went all brutal on them. A small crowd soon developed, petting Izuku and adoring his fluffy yet muscular looks. When they arrived at Recovery Girl's office, she shooed all the uninjured examines away, and tended to Katsuki. Nizu-sensei arrived, along with Aizawa-sensei, and Izuku gave them the full report. Izuku was dismissed and told to stay up all night training with Aizawa at UA grounds before tomorrow, which was the first day of UA high school for first years like Izuku. Aizawa dragged Izuku over to the training grounds, much to his protest, and they began their rigorous training. They ended up sleeping together in their respective sleeping bags side by side under the night sky. President Mike and Midnight saw this in the early morning and managed to take some pictures for future use. No spoilers, when Izuku finally opened his eyes again and got up, it was the first day of school. Grinning to himself, Izuku got up and headed over to Class 1A, excited for the day to begin. Izuku entered Classroom 1A, just barely dragging himself through the door. The classroom was empty, as Izuku arrived 5 minutes before school even opened. Benefits of being the principal's prized student. Izuku whipped out his green sleeping bag from nowhere, don't question it. Using the secret sleeping arts that Aizawa taught him, Izuku got in his sleeping bag. Secret sleeping arts advanced technique, gravity-defying snooze. Izuku then placed his hands to the ground, and felt the sleeping bag float to the ceiling. He then transformed into a kitten so he would be lighter and smaller. In his newer, more comfortable form, Izuku quickly drifted into sleep. Content. He didn't wake up as his classmates poured into the classroom, and they most certainly didn't notice him. Aizawa's POV, he's back. B*****. I wait outside the door to Class 1A, waiting for them to notice me in my favorite special edition banana yellow sleeping bag. The students are just chatting away without a care, socializing, but they don't realize their cursed fate, because I am their teacher. I grin slightly at the thought of the glorious hell I'm going to put them through. This is taking too long. TCH, guess I'll have to get their attention. If you're going to just be socializing and fooling around, then leave now. The class turned towards the new voice and instantly quieted. I saw their expressions, and knew what they were thinking. I've seen those expressions enough times to know they all are thinking it's a caterpillar. Creepy. Yeah, well, I happen to like caterpillars, and I bet they take offense. I pull out my juice and sip it, earning another frightened expression from the class. It took you guys 5 seconds to quiet down, I say as I unzip my sleeping bag and exit the warmth, standing up to face the class. You guys are not practical enough. Welcome to UA Hero course, and I'm your homeroom teacher Aizawa Shota. I know it's sudden, put these on and meet me outside in the training field. I say as I take some PE uniforms out of my sleeping bag storage compartment and hand it to the round-faced girl. All of the kids have mostly regained their composure, until I say oh, and Izuku, come down from there already. That technique is taxing because it's so advanced. All the students look to the ceiling and freeze, with expressions almost as shocked as when they saw me. WW, what is that? A dumb-looking Pikachu asked, pointing to the floating green sleeping bag that was currently pressed against the ceiling. Is that another giant mutant caterpillar? It's an infestation. That's Izuku. I reply boredly. Come on already Izuku, wake up. Coming. A voice replies from the sleeping bag. The students froze. It's alive, the round-faced girl stated, with the same shocked expression. The sleeping bag suddenly dropped to the ground abruptly, and landed with a thump. Ow, the voice, which I presume was Izuku, said. The opening zipped open to reveal a tiny kitten with bright emerald eyes and a tired expression. What now, Aizawa? The kitten deadpanned, much to the surprise of the whole class. It talks, a blue-haired boy questioned, shaking his arms robotically in a weird fashion. Oh f***ck. I'm still in kitten form, aren't I? Izuku the kitten looked up at Aizawa, who nodded affirmative. No cursing, Izuku. I reprimand him, but with zero motivation behind my words. Meanwhile, all the girls in the class are cooing over how cute the kitten is. A pink-skinned, pink-haired girl with horns takes a step towards Izuku, and I stop her. Don't, I say. She looks at me, confused. He's about to transform back, and besides, he doesn't really react kindly to pets. I explain, subconsciously rubbing the scratches on my forearm. I should know, I mutter to myself. Some mist pours off of Izuku, not unlike that of All Might's to transforming steam. The kitten grows, skin and clothing replacing fur, ears disappearing in a mop of long, green hair. Claws turn to fingers, and the tail is gone. In the kitten's place is Izuku, with a very tired expression, which is normal for him. Yo, he says, earning even more shocked expressions. Izuku's POV, back at it again, Tadakashi. Yurika choked out, with Itza next to her giving Izuku a pained expression. Sorry, no, that's not my name. My real name is Izuku Midoriya. I glance at Aizawa, who gives me a nod. Izuku, go ahead and explain your background to the class. That'll make it easier. Then we can go to the field. I'll go wait down there. Aizawa walked off to the said training field. Alright then. Izuku walked to the front of the class, and all the students gave him their attention. I am Izuku Midoriya. I was quirkless for almost my whole life, until I discovered I actually had a quirk. My quirk was blocked due to certain barriers, and when I underwent hardcore training for a whole year, it allowed me to access my quirk and even break the limits. I met Aizawa, who introduced me to Nizu-sensei, the principal of the school. Nizu took me under his wing and made me his personal protege. I am also Aizawa's private protege, and they asked me to go undercover in the exams at UA to analyze and assess the examines under a false pretense that I was their friend. Under said facade, I adopted a different personality and name, Kaido Takashi, and I used this fake identity to play my role in the exams as the final obstacle. Of course, I'm a highly recommended student, which is more prestigious than a regular recommended student. This is because Nizu and Aizawa technically recommended me, since my going to this school was a given, being their personal student. Bakugo's POV, cursing ahead. You have been warned though cursing goes with Bakugo, so you already kind of know what you're getting into. At this point, Katsuki woke up from his sleep. He had slept through the whole thing, because he thought it was a waste of time, and didn't even see Izuku transform. So when he opened his eyes to see his childhood friend, he was shocked, then pissed as hell. Oi, stupid Deku. What are you doing here? Katsuki yelled at Izuku, who winced. Katsuki. Izuku addressed Katsuki, which surprised Katsuki, since Izuku always insisted on calling him by his childhood name, Kaken. Useless Deku, why are you here? I'm a highly recommended student, Katsuki. You would have known if you weren't sleeping through my whole explanation, Izuku retorted, much to Katsuki's surprise. Izuku was never this confident before. Under his slight shock, Katsuki was very angry and pissed as hell. How dare that King Deka stand in his way of becoming the #1 hero? And since when did he develop a quirk? Has that *TTY Deka been hiding his quirk from Katsuki his whole life? That *CKER. Deku. Don't get in my way. Katsuki grabbed his uniform and walked angrily away towards the changing rooms. So what if Deko had a quirk, and maybe got a little taller and more buff? He was still just a pebble in Katsuki's path. Katsuki would teach that run to not try to stand up to him, because he would always be better. King Deku, Katsuki muttered. That's right. Just another useless pebble in his path. Not even worth his attention. Izuku's POV, for a short bit. Like, literally 2 or 3 sentences. Whew, that was a lot of explaining. I'm tired. Now let's just go. I'm tired. Izuku slumped forward, head hitting the podium he was standing behind. Is he okay? What happened? The class murmured amongst themselves. Todoroki's POV, yay finally. Todoroki Shoto, a dual-haired boy with a dual quirk, got up and checked on Izuku. He's fine, Todoroki stated. He's just sleeping. At that, the class breathed a sigh of relief and began to put on the PE uniforms. Todoroki was usually an aloof, emotionless boy, but Izuku Midoriya perked his interest for some reason. Maybe it was those bright green, intelligent eyes, or his peaceful, relaxed face as he slept. For some reason, Todoroki found Midoriya interesting, and was intrigued by him and his abilities. Maybe Midoriya could be the one to rival Todoroki. Todoroki was always better than everyone else. He was exceptional, but much was expected of him. He always won everything, was the perfect model student, and was not only intelligent, but strong, and had a rare, powerful quirk. He could never find someone to rival him, be it brains or brawn, yet Midoriya seemed to excel him in every way. Not to mention, Midoriya had a much different background than Todoroki. I will get to the bottom of his strength, Todoroki thought. Maybe he's Aizawa's secret love child. No matter what, I will surpass him and I will get to the bottom of his strength. The class, Midoriya and Todoroki included, went outside to meet Aizawa. Today we will be assessing your quirks. You've all taken physical exams, right? The class nodded yes in response. Aizawa turned to Midoriya. Izuku. Midoriya jolted to attention. Yes, sensei? Go stand in the circle. You know what to do on my signal. Midoriya obeyed, walking into the circle. Aizawa turned to the class. Midoriya's score without his quirk is 81 meters. Midoriya will now use his quirk in this test. Nodding to Midoriya, Aizawa gave him the signal to begin. Midoriya's arm transformed into a lion's arm, and while he had a paw, he also sort of had fingers to hold the ball. Midoriya stretched a little, then cocked back his arm and threw the ball with tremendous strength. Aizawa glanced at his tracker device, smirked, and showed it to the class. It read 709.56 meters. The school system still insists on taking physical tests without quirk usage. It's not practical in this age of quirks. You will be allowed to use your quirks on all of the fitness tests in order to understand your limits and what you can and can't do, Aizawa explained. Everyone started cheering about being able to use their quirks, and Aizawa got ticked off. You think this is a game? Fine. Aizawa grinned creepily. Whoever gets last place will be expelled. Way out. The whole class shouted, excluding Bakugo and Todoroki. This is the UA Hero course. We won't be accepting students with no potential, Aizawa says. He's not going to actually do it, right? A Pikachu-looking dude whispered. Is he for real? Another student murmured, an invisible one. Of course I can do it and I will do it. If you don't believe me, then ask Izuku here. Aizawa gestured towards Midoriya, who sweated a little. Why yeah, Aizawa-sensei is really harsh. He once expelled a whole class for not having potential. Midoriya was shaking slightly in fear at the thought of Aizawa's harsh teaching. He'll put you all through hell, you'll wish you were dead. Midoriya muttered in an undertone, and Todoroki only barely picked it up. Is Aizawa-sensei really that harsh and scary? Todoroki thought. No matter. I will not lose to Midoriya. This is my chance to see what he's made of. I will defeat him. Now, let's begin the quirk apprehension test. Aizawa grinned widely, as if he was having the best time of his life. I'll show you Midoriya. Todoroki looked at his left hand, and squeezed it into a tight fist. I will defeat you without using my left. His wretched power. Todoroki released his grip, and dropped his hand to his side, preparing himself for the tests. Just you wait. First up was the 50-meter dash with Tsuyu Azui and Tinya Aitsa. As soon as it started, Aitsa zoomed ahead with his engines in his legs, gaining an impressive score of 3.04 seconds. Azui hopped along, earning a score of 5.58 seconds. Then Aoyama Yuga with Mina Ashido went, and a few other students later it was Bakugo and Izuku's turn. I see, so Azui uses her frog-like qualities to hop along with her legs. Her quirk must be frog-related, or rather giving her the attributes of a frog. No visible weaknesses, but Aitsa on the other hand, while incredibly fast, lacks other important qualities. I see many weaknesses that others can exploit, but with work they could easily strengthen themselves. And Aoyama's weakness is having to be the center of attention. Is he really fit for the job of a hero? Thinking about what it means to be a hero, everyone's answers are different, but Aoyama might struggle with his passion and his quirk, while strong, has drawbacks that cannot be ignored. Izuku went on muttering, drawing the attention of all the students present. They just stared, thinking, scary. Hey, Deku, get your ass over here so I can beat you. Bakugo growled, then stomped over to the starting line. Izuku just looked at him with bored, tired eyes before following and standing behind the line. Start, said the robot machine, and Bakugo propelled himself forward with explosions, and flew towards the finish line. Explosive turbo speed, Bakugo shouted. What did I even expect? Of course, just because he got some damn stupid quirk doesn't mean he's anywhere equal to me, Bakugo thought, grinning insanely, until he saw a blur shoot past him. It was a cheetah with green eyes. 2.89 seconds, the machine beeped pleasantly as the cheetah sped past it and then put its paws forward into a halt, making a dust cloud around it. 4.13 seconds, the machine responded again as Bakugo made it to the end. Everyone was praising Izuku as he shifted back into human form. Gritting his teeth, Bakugo dismissed this angrily. There were still other tests. That stupid nerd just got lucky. The tests went on, with Izuku dominating every event. Even during the grip strength evaluation, Izuku managed to beat Shoji's insane score of 540 kilograms by using his lion power and scoring 570 kilograms. Finally it came to the ball throw, and Bakugo was fed up. Winding up his arm, Bakugo threw the ball with impressive force, and sent it off with an incredible explosion. Die! He screamed. Unamused, Aizawa held up his machine, which read 705.2 meters. Wow! The class praised Bakugo, crowding around him. That's an insane score. Pikachu dude complimented. So manly. A spiky red-haired manly guy sobbed. Manly tears. Aizawa said, stopping himself from saying Izuku. Damn it, we're in school, I have to call him by his last name formally. TCH, what a pain. What reference is this, readers, do you know? Midoriya, Aizawa continued, it's your turn. Izuku nodded and stepped into the circle. Oh, and Midoriya, Aizawa added. If you half-ass this again, then you'll be in a much worse hell than now. Aizawa grinned creepily, and Midoriya shuddered. What? He wasn't giving it his all, the class exclaimed in shock, and Izuku grimaced sheepishly. How did you know, Aizawa-sensei? Midoriya replied uneasily. Aizawa smirked. Of course I know when you're giving it your full strength and when you're not even trying, Aizawa said. After all, you take after me, Aizawa said in an undertone so no one would hear him. Now you'd better actually try or else. Izuku needed no more prompting. Harnessing his power, Izuku pulled back his arm and infused not just a lion's strength, but at the same time added a tiger's power and mixed them together. Izuku found out he could harness more than one cat at a time, except it was extremely hard and took lots of concentration. Narrowing his eyes in concentration, Izuku threw the ball with even more monstrous strength than he displayed before. The ball was thrust forward so hard the students behind Izuku were blown back slightly by the tremendous shockwave and wind created from his throw. He broke the sound barrier 3 times. Aizawa saw the result on the machine and was slightly surprised, but quickly covered up his shock. Showing the machine to everyone else, it blinked 1,159.83 meters. Everyone was silent. Mineta and Pikachu's jaws were literally dropped all the way to the floor. Uraraka's eyes bulged out. Even Todoroki looked surprised. Welp, guess that wraps up the quirk apprehension test. Aizawa announced, bored. Bakugo was staring in shock at Izuku, but his surprise quickly morphed into rage. UF***ing DEKU. You're supposed to just be a pebble in my path, you little sh**t. Bakugo screamed in rage, charging at Izuku with his palms lit up with explosions. Aizawa readied his catching gear, but a knowing glance from Izuku stopped him. I see, Izuku. Humph, okay then, brat. Aizawa thought to himself, and settled down and let Izuku handle the situation. As Bakugo lunged, Izuku simply sidestepped him, grabbed his arm and threw Bakugo to the ground all in one swift motion. Bakugo grunted in pain as his face met the dusty floor. UDEKU. I'll F***ing kill you. Bakugo went on with his string of curses, and Izuku waited until his tirade slowed. Are you done? Izuku asked. Bakugo was about to respond, until Izuku cut him off. Good, you're done. My turn. Izuku looked at Bakugo, unimpressed, then took out his phone. With a few swift clicks, he arrived at Primal Instinct Izuku on Wattpad and scrolled through the comments. I'm not a pebble, I'm AF***ing boulder and I'm gonna roll you over like the little human you are, Izuku read. He looked up and faced the fourth wall. I couldn't have said it better, whelped Ed. Izuku, what are you doing? We discussed this in chapter 1. Author-san scolds him. Oh, quiet already. Don't waste your energy reprimanding me, Author-san. We both know you're too lazy to do that. Fine. Carry on then, as long as you don't do it again. No promises. Turning to Bakugo, Izuku looked at him hard. Growling furiously, Bakugo opened his mouth to say something, but Izuku stopped him. No. Izuku interrupted Bakugo. Katsuki, I understand how you became what you became, due to everyone praising you and your quirk. But you need to accept that I'm simply stronger than you. I don't know why you stopped being my childhood friend, or why you started to bully me so harshly for being quirkless. Now I'm not the same Deku that you beat up in the hallways and after school in the alleys. I'm not the same Deku that you told to go take a swan dive off the roof. I am more powerful than you, and I'm just going to keep rising. Izuku got off of Bakugo's back, and Bakugo stood back up, brushing off the dust on his clothes. You'd expect the kid to be ashamed or remorseful, but Bakugo is different. His eyes glared at Izuku furiously, and Bakugo was fuming, but with Aizawa watching and being embarrassed by Izuku in front of the class, Bakugo just retreated to the corner. Well, Aizawa monotoned, breaking the silence and reminding everyone he was still there. You guys can do whatever for the last 20 minutes of school. I'm going to sleep now. Bye. Aizawa pulled out his sleeping bag from his sarv, he's the newer better Mary Poppins, and stepped inside, zipping it up behind him. He promptly fell asleep within seconds. Let's introduce ourselves, our name, our likes, our quirk, etc. Ashido, the peppy pink one piped. The rest of the class agreed with the cheery Pinky, nodding in acknowledgement. Well then, since I already introduced myself earlier today anyway, I'm going to sleep, too. Izuku walked over to Aizawa's unmoving caterpillar presence and pulled out his own green sleeping bag from somewhere. He too got into his sleeping bag, and after he was all cozied up, Izuku set himself down next to Aizawa, and quickly fell asleep. So cute. Everyone thought as they saw the two cuddled up next to each other. Wait, Todoroki thought. Why did I say that with them? I usually don't participate in class, but I guess that is kinda cute the way Aizawa and Izuku are close. Izuku is especially adorable looking, and very peaceful when he's sleeping. He should relax more. Todoroki thought to himself. Wait, what? Why did I think that? Maybe it's because Izuku is my rival and he's beating me in the cute department. That must be it. This is genius. I must train to be cute at home, so I can defeat my rival Izuku. Yes, that's right. The class went through their introductions, and by the time that Izuku woke up, everyone was finished. The kids started to pack up and leave school, and it looked like Yurika wanted to go up to Izuku, but Itza stopped her and shook his head. They left together, which was fine by Izuku anyway because they were never his real friends, it was just an act. Besides, Izuku had training with Aizawa. Shuddering in fear of what Aizawa would put him through, Izuku followed Aizawa to their special training place in the forest behind UA to train. Thinking back on all of his fellow classmates' performance, Izuku reminded himself to analyze the students and their quirks with Nizu-sensei later during one of their lessons. There was no one who particularly stood out to Izuku, except for that white/red-haired kid. Todoroki, yes, that was his name. He was rather interesting, and Izuku was intrigued as to why Todoroki wouldn't use his other part of his dual quirk, as Izuku understood he had ice and fire. But Izuku had a strange feeling, other than fascination. What was this feeling he had towards Todoroki? Izuku wanted to help him overcome whatever trauma Todoroki had. Izuku understood just how horrible a father endeavor was, from reports he saw with Aizawa and Nizu, and observing Todoroki's behavior. Yeah, I probably just want to help him out. Izuku thought, reassuring himself. That's all. It's understandable, because I hate endeavor, and I somewhat understand the torment that Todoroki probably had been going through and still likely is. Come on, problem child, we have a lot of training to do. Aizawa flashed his signature grin, and Izuku flashed one of his own Aizawa creepy grins. Yep, Aizawa. Izuku covered. Whoops. I almost slipped there again and called him Dad. Nice save, he probably didn't notice. Yeah, Izuku, you wish. Aizawa noticed Izuku's slip-up, alright. But strangely, Aizawa didn't mind it one bit. Hyaa. Izuku shouted, throwing a strong punch at Aizawa. Spinning his scarf around Izuku's arm, Aizawa pulled Izuku to the side and stepped away. Come on, problem child. Use your training. Aizawa taunted, earning another attack from Izuku. When Aizawa suggested that Izuku learn how to master his scarf capture techniques, Izuku didn't know that this was it would be. Concentrating, Izuku stepped back and allowed himself to relax. He let the scarf rise and spin around him majestically, and then looked back at Aizawa triumphantly. Aizawa merely smirked, and his own scarf raised in challenge. The two began a battle between the scarves, Q Billy La Bufanda song, and both scarves whipped violently at each other. Aizawa and Izuku fought around each other, using their fists, feet and scarves, and it looked like a majestic dance of martial arts and scarf arts that the two broke apart, panting heavily and slicked in sweat, though Izuku more than Aizawa. You're getting better, kid. Aizawa panted. Pretty soon I'll master this and beat your lazy ass, Aizawa. Izuku challenged fiercely. Aizawa grinned. The match isn't yet over, kid. Izuku spun around, but it was too late. Aizawa's scarf grabbed him and wrapped him into a mummy with a green tuft on the top. MMPH. MMMPHHMHMHMH. Oomph. Izuku protested angrily, but to no avail. I did say you're getting better, but you still have a ways to go, problem child. Aizawa said as he unwrapped Izuku's mummified state. I guess you're right. Thanks, Dad, Izuku said. Dad, Izuku screamed in his head. I called him Dad. Izuku quickly scrambled away from Aizawa and shifted into a cheetah, then sped away with his newfound speed. I gotta get out of here before I embarrass myself any further, Izuku thought, screaming at himself internally. Izuku glanced back, only to see Aizawa chasing after him, jumping from tree to tree and occasionally swinging along the branches with his scarf, like a freakin' Tarzan. OSH-Izuku. No cursing. Only Bakugo can do that. Author San wails. Sorry. Izuku apologized. Under his breath, he muttered, hypocrite. Aizawa, while fast, was no match for a cheetah's speed. Unfortunately, Aizawa recognized this, and activated his quirk. With his cheetah form being ripped away by Aizawa's erasure so suddenly, Izuku tumbled, and scrambled desperately to get back on his feet. Aizawa quickly came down on him with a dropkick, and Izuku bit the dirt, literally. Coughing up dust, Izuku looked fearfully at Aizawa, whose long hair covered his face so Izuku couldn't see his expression. Aizawa-sensei, I really didn't mean to call you Dad. I slipped up because. Izuku stuttered, trying to speak. His stuttering shocked him, since he rarely ever stuttered these days. You see, my dad was never there for me. I never met him, and my mom always told me that he was overseas, doing important work, and would come back soon. He never did. Izuku cleared his throat. He died. You are like the dad that I never had. I'm sorry, I won't call you that again, it was an honest mistake. I'm sorry. Izuku dropped his head, still on the ground. He waited for Aizawa's punishment. Instead, he felt a warm hand be placed on his shoulder. Kid, you're like a son to me. It makes me happy that you called me Dad, Aizawa said, which caused Izuku to look up at him in shock. Aizawa. Izuku trailed off. But that doesn't mean I'll go easy on you. Aizawa smirked, showing off his real classy sh*t-eating grin. I know you never would. Izuku returned the smile with one of his own equally sh*t-eating grins. The two then called it a day and jogged back to UA campus so Izuku could meet with Nizu for his daily lesson on intelligence, deception, blackmail and other useful skills. Glad they got their priorities straight. Nizu only teaches the most important skills. Little did the duo know that they were being watched. Now I know what you're thinking, wouldn't they be able to tell if they were being watched? Of course they would be, but they were distracted. It just so happens that the people who happened to be watching them were Present Mike and Midnight. And of course, both heroes always had their phones on them. And they were just lucky to catch the Dadzawa fluff on video. Now they had a lot of good blackmail on Aizawa. Finally, the days of being tricked into paying for meals and drinks by Aizawa were over. They finally had leverage over their sneaky friend. The two giggled and scuttled away, plotting their evil plans for Aizawa, which involved a makeover for him and maybe a pretty pink princess dress. Previously on Primal Instinct Izuku. Aizawa and Izuku are training in the woods for Izuku to master Aizawa's scarf technique. Izuku accidentally calls Aizawa Dad, resulting in a series of events that lead to an extreme Dadzawa moment TM, in which, unbeknownst by the pure duo, Midnight and Present Mike were hiding in the bushes and managed to take pictures of the extreme Dadzawa moment TM. Midnight and Present Mike hatch a plan to later use the extreme Dadzawa moment TM as blackmail against Aizawa for, well, anything. Izuku and Aizawa walk back to UA. The above events took place after school. We start the next day, when a new day of school at UA High School begins. Izuku was dragged to UA early by Aizawa, who insisted on a little morning training session, which was basically Aizawa kicking Izuku's ass. Izuku again worked on perfecting Aizawa's scarf technique, and he managed to get the basics down, although he needed to learn all the different techniques. Currently, Izuku contemplated the different ways he could utilize his basic skills, though Aizawa told him that he wouldn't be able to use the scarf until he mastered it completely. Izuku had no choice but to comply. He knew better than to argue with Aizawa. Izuku, deep in thought, began to unconsciously mutter, which was even more scary because he was currently in his green sleeping bag, slouched over his desk. All the students saw was a highlighter green caterpillar that was muttering creepily. Izuku was suddenly brought out of his deep muttering and thoughts from a small poke to his side. He heard an EEP. It stopped, which caused Izuku to unzip himself, step out, stuff his sleeping bag into the inside compartment of his desk and give a tired glance at the students surrounding him. Yurika held a long meter ruler, and was clenching it tightly in front of her as if to protect herself. Aiza's arms swung up and down rapidly as if he couldn't comprehend what just happened. Even Todoroki, who was sitting in his desk calmly, had an intrigued expression on his face, with a little bit of interest. What? Izuku said in a monotone, bored voice, which broke everyone out of their shock. And nothing, Midoriya. The class muttered, avoiding Izuku's gaze. Ruriag, Author-san announced, causing Izuku to give them a disgusted look. You scum! Izuku glared at Author-san. How dare you mimic the bell? You have broke a sacred vow of authors, by intervening in the story and mimicking the bell. Are you making light of the bell's job? Are you mocking the bell? Author-san held up their hands in mercy. Please, Izuku, the bell took a vacation. I was running out of options, so I had to. Izuku just the Author-san another disgusted face, and then turned away from the fourth wall. What was that just now? The whole class thought, sweat dropping. Anyway, I guess this means present mixed English class is next. Izuku marched out the door, and after processing Izuku's weirdness, the class followed. Finally, it came to All Might's class. I am here. Coming through the door like a normal person, All Might announced, and the class cheered. Wow, is that his Silver Age costume? Denki remarked. All Might really is our teacher. This is awesome. Mina cheered. Izuku just looked away, disinterested. After all, this man was no hero. He nearly shattered Izuku's dreams of becoming a hero, and judging from All Might's lack of reaction upon seeing Izuku doubted that All Might even remembered who Izuku was. Meet me at Ground Beta for special hero battle training lessons. All Might laughed his signature, booming laugh. And of course, every hero must have a costume. All Might booms, ushering students towards the changing rooms, handing them their locker numbers, where their costumes are stored. Passing by All Might, Izuku snatches his number away from All Might without so much as a glance towards the number 1 pro hero. As Izuku walks away, All Might watches him leave, shocked and surprised. I am the number 1 hero, All Might. Everyone in Japan knows my name, and practically all aspiring heroes worship me. All Might thought to himself, incredulous at Izuku's behavior. Yet why does this boy not treat me with the same adoration? Why is he not even neutral, but even uninterested and possibly annoyed with me? Dumbfounded, All Might brushed away his confusion and strode off to the training ground. After all, he had a class to teach. Almost all the students were done changing, and they complimented and commented on each other's costumes. Hey, wait, where's Takashi no Midoriya? Yurika stumbled over her words, obviously still feeling the effects of Midoriya's deception. I've been here the whole time. A voice came out of nowhere, startling Yurika and Aitsa, who immediately whipped their heads around to see where Midoriya was. Come on, guys, I'm right here. They turned to see Midoriya squatting on top of a street lamp, observing the scene calmly and somewhat boredly. With a graceful hop, Izuku landed on the ground lightly. You guys take too long, Izuku said to no one in particular. Izuku's costume consisted of a dark jumpsuit with a utility belt around his waist, which was exactly like Aizawa's, with a few slight differences. He wore a face mask that covered his mouth and most of his nose, and Izuku had 2 katanas strapped crisscross to his back, ninja style, and 1 longsword strapped to his hip. All swords were sheathed. From his utility belt hung a small handgun with a spare ammo magazine, 2 different knives, a grappling hook and other essentials. Izuku wore black fingerless gloves that had metal plating, and also had metal platings on his elbows, shoulders, knees and shins. Finally, Izuku wore black soundless boots with steel tips. His costume was not plain, but was not too flashy, and would be especially unnoticeable in the cover of night. However, many students came up to him and complimented his costume. All Might arrived, and began to explain the activity. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, so this will be a short summary. As All Might was explaining, a student raised their hand and blurted out a question. Other students too bombarded the number 1 hero with questions. Hey, I can only answer 1 question at a time guys. All Might chuckled good-naturedly, and continued. After he was done explaining, All Might held up a small box which beeped to life and projected a holographic image of the team matchups. It went like this: Teammate Izuku Midoriya and Shoto Todoroki. Team B Hagakure Toru and Mashiro Ajiro. Team I Okako Yurika and Momo Yaorozu. Team D Katsuki Bakugo and Mineta Minoru. Team H Tsuyu Azui and Mizo Shoji. Team J Kyukajiro and Denki Kaminari. Team G Ahiro Kirishima and Tokoyami Fumikage. Team C Mina Ashido and Koji Kota. I don't know if I'm missing anyone, but I'm lazy and at this point I don't care anymore, and neither do you probably. All Might announced that the following teams would be facing off. Team A vs Team D as the villains, Team B vs Team J as the villains, Team G vs Team I as the villains, Team C vs Team H as the villains. Alright then, young heroes. Let's begin with Team A vs Team D first. The rest of you who aren't fighting yet, come with me to the monitor room to watch the fight. All Might led the other students away, and only Izuku, Todoroki, Bakugo, and Mineta remained. I'll kick your F***TTY ass, DEKU. Bakugo snarled, then turned towards the purple ball-haired student. If that even is hair, and you. Bakugo growled threateningly. If you interfere, I'll kill you so hard you'll die. Bakugo marched off angrily towards the building, with Mineta scurrying frightened behind him, from a safe distance of course. Todoroki gave a sideways glance at Bakugo, then turned his attention to Izuku. Normally, Shoto would ignore his teammate, or tell them to not interfere and stay out of his way, but this was Izuku. For some strange reason, Shoto had no desire to brush Izuku off or dismiss him coldly. No pun intended. Surprising even himself, Shoto turned to Izuku. What's our plan? Izuku smirked, which strangely made Shoto's heart skip a beat. Must be adrenaline for the battle, Shoto thought. I have a plan. Izuku grinned. And Katsuki and Mineta will stand no chance. After Izuku finished explaining his plan to Todoroki, the dual-haired boy nodded in affirmative. They were already within the building, and were waiting for All Might's cue to start. You know, Todoroki said, you really are amazing. Izuku immediately felt a light blush tint his face. Todoroki went as red as the left half of his hair. I mean, your planning and problem-solving skills are impressive, Todoroki sputtered, trying to cover up his mistake. Why yeah, thanks. Izuku replied. Start! All Might's voice boomed from the loudspeakers, making Izuku and Todoroki jump a little. Come on, let's go. Izuku nodded in agreement, and the two boys headed off into the corridors. Alright, Katsuki should be coming out any moment now, Izuku said. He knew Katsuki wouldn't work together with Mineta, and would instead rush off to find Izuku. He remembered his conversation with Todoroki, when they were discussing the plan. Koch Katsuki will come for me immediately, because he wants to beat me up, Izuku had explained. That's when we'll start phase 1 of the plan, where you create a blockade of ice and run up to get the bomb, while I'll take care of Katsuki. No, leave Bakugo to me, Todoroki argued, and Izuku looked at him quizzically. I have something I need to ask him. Alright, if you say so. Izuku, while resistant, had known better than to question the boy's motives and strength, not to mention the unwavering conviction in his heterochromia eyes. An explosion shook Izuku out of the past. He's coming. Get ready, Izuku warned Todoroki, who adopted a defensive stance, a chilly aura swirling around his right side. Deku-Uyu, Bakugo roared, and smashed through the ceiling with an explosive punch. Bakugo rocketed down towards Izuku, with his right fist extended and bursting with many combustions, ready to smash Izuku into the cement ground. Unfazed, Izuku merely sidestepped and grabbed Bakugo's wrist at the split second before Bakugo crashed into the floor, so he couldn't get away. Harnessing lion strength, Izuku spun Bakugo and threw him to the floor. Izuku hopped away, and before Bakugo could get up, Todoroki created a thick wall of ice between them. Hurry and go! Bakugo will be getting up soon, and he won't stop until he gets to you, Todoroki shouted over his shoulder, and Izuku dashed away. Grunting, Bakugo stood up and smashed the ice barrier with an explosive fist. That F***ing Deku thinks he can run away, Bakugo steamed. Out of the way, half and half bastard. Todoroki narrowed his eyes. If you want Midoriya, you'll have to go through me first. Fine by me. I'll beat you up first, and then I'll kill that damn Deku. Bakugo grinned wildly, explosions igniting in his palms. Todoroki's POV, in case you hadn't noticed, I was shifting towards this anyway. So far, Bakugo hasn't proven himself that much of a challenge. Sure, he's powerful, but nothing particularly notable, and with his temper and attitude, he'd make a better villain than hero. Todoroki, I found the bomb. It's on the 4th floor. Midoriya's voice spoke in my ear. Most would describe his voice as tired, bored and monotone, but I found a comfort in it. His voice, while not low or deep, had a lower undertone to it that soothed me and gave him confidence. Oi, half and half bastard. What are you grinning silly for? Fight me, Bakugo screamed. Oh right. Got a little lost in my thoughts there, I said to myself. Pressing my earpiece to speak, I replied copy. Good work to Midoriya, and then turned my attention back to Bakugo, who was currently powering up and preparing to come at me again. Die! Bakugo screamed again, launching himself at me, and I simply shot a column of ice towards him. He dodged, and rushed towards me. I dodged his explosive punch, and encasing my fist in ice, I deliver a harsh blow to his stomach, blowing him back a couple of feet. What do you have against Midoriya? I questioned the explosive boy. You guys are childhood friends, right? Midoriya unconsciously flinches slightly when he saw you try to punch him. Bakugo gets angrier at the question, if that even is possible, considering the boy was already extremely furious. We were childhood friends, dumbass. He's just a quirkless loser, he always has been and always will be. I frowned slightly. But Midoriya has a quirk. And besides, that doesn't explain why he flinched. Shut up. Bakugo interrupts me, then takes a few paces back, confusing me. What is he doing? I wonder. He has a close combat quirk. If close range attacks don't work, then I'll just have to switch tactics. Bakugo crouches, and holds up one of his arms. If they made these like I asked them, then they should have nitroglycerin stored inside, stocked up. His quirk allowed him to create explosions out of his nitroglycerin like sweat, but if his gauntlets were filled with nitroglycerin, then he could ignite it. Suddenly it dawned on me. I glance up, but it's too late. Young Bakugo, don't do that. You'll kill him. All Might's worried voice boomed from the speakers. He won't die. It'll just make sure he doesn't get back up. Bakugo grabbed the pin and pulled it. Die, he screamed. You literally just said that I won't die, and then you shout die at me. I think he's underestimating me. I release a tremendous amount of ice, and the explosion in my ice meet, causing icy wind and flickers of embers to fly from the collision point. Gritting my teeth in concentration, I push my ice to the limits, and slowly, my ice begins to freeze over the explosion blast. Arg! Bakugo roars, but it's futile. I froze his explosion, leaving a giant explosive blast encased in ice. I place my palm on it, and it melts. The explosion inside has cooled down, and is released in a harmless puff of smoke. Bakugo just stands there, shocked, and I open my mouth once more. What happened between you and Midoriya? Looking up at me with his bloodshot eyes, he regains his composure. Why do you care so much about that damn Deku? I say nothing, and Bakugo smirks. Like I said, he was a quirkless loser, so I made sure he knew his place. I simply made sure he understood he was nothing, and I occasionally reminded him of this once in a while. He stares me down, still wearing his taunting grin. His face tells me all I need to know. I understand why I recognize the pain in Midoriya's eyes, no matter how hard he tries to conceal it, and why I had a foreboding feeling when Midoriya flinched at the sight of Bakugo, and when I saw faint, old scars along his body when he was changing in the locker room. Rage envelopes me, as my past comes rushing back to me. You! I rasp, my voice hoarse and tense, my eyes to the floor. Bakugo cocks his head to the side and gives me a devilish grin. Ha! You say something. I slowly lift my head, my hair covering my eyes. You hurt Midoriya. Those scars, they were burn scars. Like mine, I silently say to myself. So, Bakugo taunts me. My eyes meet his, and under my scrutinizing glare, Bakugo looks taken aback. You'll pay for what you've done to him. I hiss, my demeanor no longer calm and collected. I find myself with a rage, with burning fury. I embrace it. For one glorious moment, fear paints itself across Bakugo's face. He takes a step back, his arms and legs shaking slightly. What are you gonna? He trails off, his face paling. I swiftly dart forward, sliding across the ice I create as I go. I feel a few embers of fire flicker from my left side, responding to my fury, but I snuff them out. Revenge is a delicacy best served cold. I snarl, both to him and myself. And cold was something only my mother could help me with. Within moments I'm right up close to Bakugo's face, and I smash my fist into his face. He stumbles backwards, and I kick him in between his legs. He chokes on his pain. This is for Midoriya. I hiss into his ear, and I punch him once more. This time, my fist stays on his body, and only too late does he realize what is happening. Wait. Bakugo stutters and shudders, though I can't tell if it is from fear or the cold. Ice climbs across his body, starting slowly, but quickly advancing up to his neck. Ugh. He strains his neck, pulling his head away from the spreading frost, but in vain. Please. He chokes out, and a rebel tear dashes across his face. This breaks me out of my trance. The ice ceases its advance. I look at what I've done, but I'm not sorry. He deserved it for hurting Midoriya. Sorry. I spit the words out, like they taste disgusting. I begin to walk away, and before I round the corner and walk up the stairs, I give one glance back at Bakugo. He looks like he's about to *T his pants, if he hasn't already. The corridor is in shambles, with gaping holes from explosions and ice chunks stuck to the sides of the walls, floor, and even roof. So much for keeping damage to a minimum. Sorry, All Might. I mutter, and then I round the corner. Midoriya. I think to myself as I hurry up the steps. You were hiding so much pain, suffering and betrayal behind your eyes, just like I am. Gritting my teeth in pain from one of Bakugo's blasts, I grip my arm, a bruise already blooming. I understand you. Which is why I'll protect you. That way, at least I can protect you if I can't defend myself from my father. With a newfound resolve, I rush up the stairs to the 4th floor, where Izuku reported that the bomb was located. Wait for me, Izuku. I'm coming. Izuku's POV, right after he left Todoroki, finally. I peer at the bomb from behind a corner. Sure enough, just as I thought, Mineta was guarding the bomb. At least, I thought he was. Why me? Why did I have to get teamed up with Bakugo against 2 of the top 3 strongest in our class? Mineta wailed, letting his tears flow. I only wanted to peep at the girls and check out their amazing boodash. Okay, that's enough. I interrupt the purple perv, marching out of my hiding place. Mineta turns my way in surprise. Ha! He rubs his wide eyes, confused. Todoroki, I found the bomb. It's on the 4th floor. I report to Todoroki through our radio connection. Copy. Good job. Todoroki's voice came back into my earpiece. I jumped, slightly startled. It was weird to hear his soft, reassuring voice in my ear. Hey, Midoriya. Mineta says, bringing me out of my thoughts. Yeah, why are you blushing? I'm blushing? Wait, I'm blushing. Midoriya. Mineta suddenly gets a super pervy look on his face, more than usual. Are you thinking about how huge the girl's boodash? No. I reply bluntly. Mineta looks at me disbelievingly, but I ignore it. The purple-headed pervert can think what he wants about me. I don't care what he thinks. I mean, look at him. He looks like the rip-off pervert version of Stewie from Family Guy. Whatever. I don't care what a perverted, dehydrated prune thinks. I stated matter-of-factly. Mineta sputtered, trying to find his words. Finally, he came up with, I'm a grape, not a prune. And I am not dehydrated. So you aren't denying the perverted part, huh? Well, I mean, but that's. I lift an eyebrow. Mineta got a nosebleed. I can only imagine why. which I really don't want to imagine. Alright, I've had enough fooling around with you, Mineta, I say. Now the battle begins. I quickly dart towards him, and before he can react, my foot lashes out and kicks him in his scrawny chest, causing him to fly backwards and hit the wall. Oops. I tried to limit my power a lot so I wouldn't accidentally kill you, but I guess you're just too small and light, and airborne. I scratched the back of my head sheepishly. Ugh. Mineta groans, pulling himself off of the wall. I hum and say, you should have stayed down. You're just buying yourself more pain. Mineta slowly walks towards me, and I let my fighting stance drop. He's not a threat, after all. Defeat is inevitable. You're just dragging this out. Katsuki is not going to miraculously come barging in here to save your ass, if that's what you're buying time for. I should know, he doesn't do friends. I grimace at the memories of Katsuki's friendship to me. I can fight too, you know. I'm not just a pervert. Mineta's declaration surprised me a little, causing me to look up, or down, cause he's small, at him. Looking me dead in the eye, Mineta had a fierce resolve shown in his face. I grin, thinking that maybe I misjudged him, and that he isn't just a weakling after all. I'm not just a pervert. I'm a pervert that will become a hero. In order to become popular with the girls, I must succeed, Mineta proclaimed proudly. I just look at him. Well, at least you have a conviction to become a hero, I guess. Even if your reasoning isn't that heroic. I deadpan. Don't underestimate my resolve. My reason to become a hero may be lousy to you, but my dream is to touch Yaoyorozu's Ampleby dash. Okay, please don't finish that sentence. I've been trying to stop you from saying that word the best I can, but dash I stop, looking at Mineta's sudden evil grin. I see, he. Mineta giggled creepily. I figured out your weakness, Midoriya. I look at him, astonished. He figured out my weakness? I didn't even know I had one. What is my weakness, then, Mineta? I ask, genuinely curious. He grinned again. I'll tell you. It's boo-no. I cry out, falling on my knees and covering my ears. I can't believe it. My greatest weakness is that I'm innocent? I can't even hear or say or think the word arg. How could I have such oversight? How could I have overlooked this crucial detail? I cry out in despair, shaking my fists to the sky, or in this case, the roof, and look upward. Why have you cursed me with this ridiculous innocence, heavens? I turn to the fourth wall. Author, why did you make this my weakness? Couldn't it have at least been something like sea monsters or dragons? First of all, Izuku, you've broken the fourth wall repeatedly. It's getting tiring trying to fix it, and I'm getting tired of writing it. Also, I bet the readers are tired of reading you breaking the fourth wall all the time. Author-san scolds Izuku. Now, shut up and do what I write you to do. Ha ha ha. Mineta laughs again. Your weakness is my pleasure. But don't despair yet, Midoriya. After all, girls find innocent guys like you cute. I should know. I've spent the majority of my life studying them. Creep alert much, Mineta? I croak out, lifting open one of my eyes. Don't think that you'll defeat me so easily. Mineta interrupts me with another boo dash in which I cover my ears and close my eyes again to stop myself from hearing that wretched word. A few moments pass. I open my eyes and look around, confused. Mineta is standing above me. I try to get up and punch him, but my movements are sluggish and resistant. Wait a second. I look at my arms and legs, in which I find that Mineta's sticky purple balls are holding down my limbs. I try to shift, and it almost works, until Mineta pulls off more of his balls and reinforces my restraints. I try to move, but I can't. Ugh. I strain against my restraints and frustration, but to no avail. Knowing that I've been defeated by Mineta, I should probably give him more credit. I outwitted you, Midoriya. How pathetic. Mineta crows, taunting me and parading around my limp body proudly. Huff, huff, Midoriya. Someone says. I try to turn my head to see who, but I can't. I made it, Midoriya, and you don't have to worry, because I've got your back. I know that voice now, it's Todoroki. TT Todoroki. Mineta exclaims. Bakugo didn't defeat you. Humph. What do you think? Todoroki responded sharply. He turned his attention to me. Midoriya, you're incredibly strong. How was Mineta able to defeat you? Todoroki asked, with slight surprise in his voice. Mineta, he is very perceptive. He figured out my weakness. I trail off, ashamed. Weakness? Todoroki asked quizzically. Hoo. Mineta chuckled. Midoriya's weakness is his innocence. I was able to put him out of action with even just the smallest mention of B-dash. Nuu, I howled. The Paien. So what you're saying is that the slightest mention of B.O., sorry Midoriya. As I was saying, the slightest mention of that sort of thing causes Midoriya pain? Todoroki asked. Yes. And now, with just 20 seconds left, all I need to do is stall you guys. Ha ha ha. Mineta laughed. Oh shoot, he's right, we only have 20 seconds left. Todoroki, hurry. Todoroki. Todoroki was unresponsive. Mineta, you're causing Midoriya pain. Todoroki's voice was dark and dangerous. No one causes Midoriya pain. I vowed to protect him. Todoroki rushed at Mineta, who squeaked in fear, suddenly remembering that he was facing one of the strongest students in their class. For Midoriya AAA, Todoroki yelled his battle cry, which was just Midoriya's name, and made Mineta into a mine cube of ice. See what I did there? Play on words, eh? Todoroki turned back to me, but I shook my head. Todoroki, there's no time to free me. Secure the bomb first. Todoroki looked like he wanted to protest, but decided against it and ran over to the bomb. He placed his hand on it, securing our victory. Hero team wins. All Might sounded over the speakers. Come meet us in the monitoring room to discuss the battle. Todoroki unfroze Mineta and had him remove my sticky restraints, then helped me up. Thanks, Todoroki. He nods, acknowledging me. Say, you were going on about protecting me. What was that about? I ask, confused. He smiles, something that I never saw before. His smile was so bright and warm, you would never guess he had an ice quirk. Let's just say that we've had similar past experiences, and I want to protect you. I learned a little about your past from Bakugo. My expression darkened when I heard Katsuki's name. You won't judge me, will you? For being quirkless most of my life? And bullied, and picked on, and dash of course not. I respect you, Midoriya. And I'd like to make sure you're protected and safe. Can I walk you home from school today? Todoroki asked with a reassuring face. How could I say no? Sure, Todoroki. Thank you. And together, we walked out of the building, but this time, our shoulders brushed ever so slightly, and we didn't flinch away from the touch. Izuku thought back on the day as he headed into the boys' locker room to change out of his hero suit. Todoroki and he had done very well, and Todoroki was listed as the MVP due to Izuku giving into his unfortunate weakness. The other matches were somewhat predictable, but Izuku still paid attention, because Aizawa and Nizu had told him to observe the other students and write up reports on their weaknesses, strengths, quirks, physical, mental and emotional capabilities, abilities, and more. Nizu said it was for analyzing practice, and also that Izuku was one of the most impressive minds he had met, and Nizu needed Izuku to report on the students so Nizu could help them improve. Izuku finished changing into his UA uniform and walked out to where Todoroki was waiting for him. It was a good thing that Aizawa had decided to cancel that afternoon's training, because then Izuku wouldn't be able to walk home with Todoroki. Hey, Todoroki greeted Izuku, and they walked along the pathway silently. Izuku noticed that Todoroki would snatch glances of Izuku while he thought Izuku wasn't looking, and when Izuku turned towards him, Todoroki would quickly look back straight ahead at the pathway, as if it were the most interesting thing in the world. Hey, everyone has their quirks, right? Izuku thought to himself. Oh, no pun intended. Hey, Todoroki, Izuku piped up, after what seemed like a long, stretching silence of walking. Don't you have to go home also? Todoroki's expression darkened, and his fists hardened. I would prefer, Todoroki said, with obvious strain and tension in his voice, to go home as late as possible. There is something I want to avoid. Okay? Izuku could see a lot wrong with that sentence, the way Todoroki paused, and how his voice was tight and full of barely withheld anger. Thanks to Nizu's classes, Izuku noticed that Todoroki's tone, speech, and body language all screamed that something was amiss. But Izuku did not pry. If he doesn't want to share, then he won't. Everyone's got their secrets. Izuku thought. Midoriya. Todoroki's voice brought Izuku out of his thinking. You were mumbling again, Todoroki explained. Oh, sorry, I do that sometimes. It's a bit of a habit, Izuku apologized, scratching the back of his head sheepishly. The two walked on in silence, Izuku leading the way to his house, and Todoroki following by his side. All of a sudden, Todoroki stopped dead in his tracks and looked at Izuku, wide-eyed. Todoroki? What is it? Izuku asked, but Todoroki just stared at him. What? Izuku asked again quizzically, and Todoroki just mumbled cat. Whoa! Izuku reached to the top of his head, feeling around, and touching something warm and fluffy. Kamen. Izuku called softly to the fluffy thing perched atop his head, and a light murrow replied. Again? What are you doing up there, Kamen? Izuku asked Kamen. Meow meow murrow mew. Kamen answered matter-of-factly. Reminder, Kamen is the black cat that Izuku adopted in chapter 2 to 3, Cat Parade and Izuku and Aizawa meet. Oh, I see, you wanted more screen time. Izuku nodded his head as if that made sense. Excuse me? I'm still here. Todoroki said. Meow. Murrow. Mew meow mew. Kamen meowed profusely. Yes, I understand I hogged the spotlight, and I will try to include you more. Meow ww. Kamen protested. Fine, I'll also pick up that spicy tuna deluxe you like to eat from a supermarket on my way home. Izuku gave in to Kamen's protests. Meow. Kamen meowed satisfied, and then sat down on Izuku's head, relaxed. Hi. Still here, still, Todoroki mumbled. He wasn't used to being rejected or ignored. Oh, sorry, Todoroki. I was just talking to my partner, Kamen. Izuku apologized again. You can talk to animals. Todoroki looked shocked. No, I can only talk to cats, since I can become one. It's because of my quirk. With my quirk, it's like it's a part of me. I am neither human, nor feline. Todoroki stared blankly. It wasn't often that Todoroki didn't understand something, but Todoroki was a little confused. Okay, I think. Todoroki continued walking with Izuku. It's okay if we make a stop at a nearby supermarket, right? I promised Kamen I'd pick up his favorite food there. Yeah, sure. Todoroki complied, and the two headed towards Vinny's supermarket. Greetings, Midoriya. Todoroki. An authoritative voice sounded behind the pair, and they turned around to see Aiza. Oh hi Aiza. Izuku monotoned, his voice as sleepy as ever. Todoroki wondered why it was always like that, strangely akin to Aizawa's own voice. Just so you know, Midoriya, I understand why you deceived Yurika and I during the entrance exams. You were only following direct instructions from Aizawa-sensei and Principal Nizu-sensei. Aiza spoke. I also respect you for your impressive skills. I believe you will become a great hero. I would like to be your friend, so I can learn from you more. Well, thanks, Aiza. Sure, we can be friends. Excellent. Aiza cut Izuku short, placing his hand on Izuku's shoulder. Meow. Kamen piped up, reminding everyone he was there. Aiza looked a little surprised, but quickly warmed up. You have a pet cat? Of course, what with your quirk and all. Mind if I pet him? Aiza asked respectfully. Sure. Izuku replied, and Aiza reached towards Kamen and stroked his soft, black fur. Kamen purred and leaned towards Aiza's touch. He's only ever been kind towards Aizawa and I. He usually hisses and bites at other people, much less strangers. Izuku replies, shocked. So that's why the cat was giving me the devil's eye and sticking out its tongue at me. Todoroki thought to himself, suddenly understanding. You see, I have 2 cats at home. I love cats, and you could say they feel equally attracted to me. Aiza explained, while continuing to pet Kamen. Izuku smiled slightly, a genuine smile. Todoroki and Aiza caught hold of Izuku's true smile. So bright and adorable, its beautifulness is blinding. Todoroki thought. Wow, Midoriya has a really nice smile, even if it's small. He should smile more often. Aiza thought. No, Aiza is not a potential love interest for Izuku. Unless you guys want a love triangle like that, comment if you want that, I guess. I feel like Aiza should be a good friend. Aiza, I can see us becoming good friends in the future. Izuku said pleasantly. We're actually about to go to Vinny's supermarket to get Kamen food. Want to come? Sure. I need to pick up some cat food for my cats back home anyway. Aiza accepted. The trio walked into the supermarket. Izuku, Todoroki and Aiza hadn't even taken a few steps into the store when the manager came running towards them frantically. No, 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 the manager cried out. Wei-a. The 3 thought simultaneously. You too. The manager pointed towards Aiza and Izuku accusingly. You must be related closely to Tensei and Shota. You look exactly like Shota, you with your cat, your long, messy hair and your tired eyes. The manager wheeled on Izuku, who just stood, bored and slightly surprised. And you, the manager then rounded on Aiza. You are no better, with your neat glasses and sophisticated dark blue hair. The manager looked very angry, while Aloe desperate and frightened, like he was remembering something horrific. You are not allowed here. The manager screeched at them. Not allowed, I say. Aiza took a step forward, earning himself a glare from the manager. Please, sir, I don't know what we've done wrong, but all we want is to buy cat food. It. The manager interrupted with another screech. Yes, that's what they said before. And the time after that, and the time after the time after that. What? Todoroki asked, confused. Arg. It doesn't matter, the manager yelled. You get out now. The manager pushed them towards the exit, and once they were outside, he slammed the door behind them and stood there, guarding the door. What was that? Izuku said, shocked. I don't know, but he seemed to know my brother and Aizawa-sensei. Come to think of it, he said you were related to Aizawa. Aiza said, turning towards Izuku. What? No, I'm not related to him. We just look similar, I guess. Izuku defended. Well, even so, this doesn't solve the problem. He clearly didn't want us anywhere near his store, and we still need to buy cat food. The next closest supermarket is 4 miles away, we can't walk that. Todoroki added. Izuku and Aiza turned towards him. No. The manager was very clear that he disliked Aiza and I, but he didn't say anything against you, Todoroki. You can go get the food for us, Izuku announced, like he solved a mystery. Splendid. Itza approved with equal enthusiasm, as if he had just come across an amazing discovery. Meow. Kamen agreed happily, as if he could already taste the spicy tuna deluxe in his mouth. Why are there so many similes and metaphors? Todoroki asked, as if we wanted to grab the flex tape, Gorilla Glue, and slash or duct tape that he surely had in his school bag. Never mind that, Todoroki. Go on inside and be our ambassador. Our messenger. Our savior. Itza was cut off as Todoroki nodded affirmative. I got it. Todoroki assured them, and walked into the store. He came back with a bag full of spicy tuna deluxe, which Kamen meowed appreciatively, drooling slightly from his mouth. Mission success, Izuku announced, and after a small discussion, the three boys departed ways. Each one of them bound to be good friends. They would be inseparable. They would be known as the next big three of UA. Izuku looked at him straight in the eyes and responded without hesitation. You slowly pull all of their teeth out, while beating them to death, and then you rip out their entrails out of their stomach while keeping them alive and conscious, and you shove it down their throat, slowly choking them, until you rip their heart out, and beat their face in while they fade away. Very good, Izuku. I see you've been studying and paying attention. Nizu smiled pleasantly. No, a voice sounded behind them. Aizawa. Nizu, why are you teaching him this sort of stuff? Because it's important. Nizu replied simply. If I could, I would have included this in the whole UA education program, but those damned old geezers on the Board of Education for Heroes forbade it. They made up some trash like it's too gory, or it's not needed or wanted. I mean, of course it is essential information. Nizu finished, incredulous. Of course I agree with Nizu-sensei, Izuku stated. Honestly, knowing about death and killing and torture and gore are very useful skills. Izuku trailed off, muttering to himself, while Nizu cackled in response. Izuku joined in, laughing maniacally. Oh boy, Aizawa thought, they're becoming more and more alike. Ahaha, Nizu laughed. Ahaha, Izuku laughed. This is going to be another long day, Aizawa muttered to himself. Hey, why do you think that Aizawa-sensei wanted us to come out here in our hero suits? Asked Kaminari, dubbed Pikachu. Dunno, said Mina, the pink alien girl. But maybe Midoriya knows. Kaminari, Mina, and Kirishima all turned to him expectantly. No. I'm not doing this, Izuku said blandly, and proceeded to walk away. But do you know? Mina called after him. Izuku flipped her off. Yep, he definitely knows. Mina concluded. But we still don't. Kaminari protested. We'll find out soon enough, Kaminari. Don't worry. Kirishima flashed a smile. Aizawa walked over to the group, and a bus pulled up. Guys, we're going to train for natural disasters and rescue efforts at a special simulation building. Get on the bus. Izuku walked over to the bus and climbed on, and the rest of the class slowly piled in with him. Izuku made sure to sit as far away from them as possible, in the back of the bus. But when Itza and Todoroki sat down next to him, he didn't mind that much. The bus started, and they were on their way to the building. Aizawa hadn't said much about it, only that it was called the USJ and they would train for disasters and rescue in a simulation. Of course, Izuku knew exactly where they were going, but he wasn't going to spoil it for everyone else. What fun would that be? The class chatted with each other, with the occasional scolding from Aizawa to keep it down. Hey, Midoriya, what exactly is your quirk? Azui piped up. Immediately the class quieted down and waited in anticipation. It seemed almost everyone was wondering the same thing. Well, my quirk allows me to shift into any animal from the feline family, from housecats like Russian blues or ragdolls to big cats like tigers or lynx. I can also shift into any age group and partially change form. There are other aspects, like how I am connected to cats, they view me as their king, almost, and I can also speak their language and understand them. That's the basics of my quirk, Izuku explained. Wow, that's an impressive quirk, Kirishima exclaimed. All my quirk lets me do is harden and make my body tougher. Nonsense, Kirishima, I think your quirk is pretty cool, and I can see all sorts of different ways that you can use it as a hero, and some interesting modifications as well. If you want, I could help you out with some of that, Izuku replied. Really, man? You'd do that? Thanks so much. Kirishima shook Izuku's hand vigorously. His hands are rough in some places. Does he have scars? Hey, dude, do you have scars on your hands? Kirishima asked. Bakugo lifted his head slightly from his position away from the group when he heard Kirishima's question. Izuku immediately jerked back, snatching his hand away from Kirishima. No, it's nothing. Izuku's eyes were dull, as if he were caught up in bad memories. His whole body visibly tensed, and his hand shook slightly. Hey, man, are you sure you're okay? Kirishima reached his hand out towards Izuku. Don't touch me. Izuku snapped, brushing Kirishima's hand away. Izuku stopped, as if realizing where he was. "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just a little uncomfortable right now." Izuku apologized. "After all my training and effort, I guess I still have a lot of trauma from my childhood, huh? I guess that it makes sense. After all, most of my life was spent being bullied and beaten and tortured by Kakatsuki and his goons. Everyone else who didn't harm me just shunned me and ignored what I was going through." Izuku was lost deep in thought, which ended the conversation and put Kirishima, Azui, and the others on edge. Ignore his mumbling. He gets like that sometimes. Aitsa apologized, bowing at a perfect 90 degrees angle with his head down. No, it's okay, Aitsa." Yurarika shaking her hands, as if telling Aitsa it was fine. "Y'all know what I mean, right? Oi, damn brats." Aizawa yelled at them. "We've arrived." The students poured out of the bus, and were greeted by the hero, 13. "Oh my god." Yurarika squealed in excitement. "It's the pro hero 13, the chivalrous hero. 13 is my favorite pro hero. Welcome, UA students, to the USJ, or the Unforeseen Simulation Joint." 13 proclaimed proudly. "You mean the Universal Studios of Japan?" Azui asked. No, the USJ is not that USJ. It is a simulation joint for natural disaster and rescue operation training. There are many different terrains that you must train in, like the fire zone or the shipwreck zone. You must train in these simulations to handle these disasters and use your quirks to their fullest. 13 explained. "So it basically is the Universal Studios of Japan," the class thought. "Excuse me, sensei, but wasn't All Might supposed to come as well?" Aitsa questioned respectfully. 13 said, and Aizawa whispered to 13 and held up 3 fingers. After a few seconds, 13 nodded to Aizawa. "All Might got a little tied up with some affairs, but he'll be here towards the end of our time here." 13 responded, and Aitsa nodded appreciatively. 13 went on with explaining, and Izuku wasn't really paying attention, until he saw a purple misty portal open in the air behind 13 and Aizawa. Izuku crouched, getting in a defensive position, his long hair falling over his eyes. "Izuku? What's wrong?" Aizawa asked, and Izuku only gazed at the portal. Aizawa turned around, and shifted into his defensive stance as well. The portal widened and villains came out. "You guys have fake villains too? Cool!" Mina exclaimed. "No, those aren't fake villains. Those are real," Aizawa said. "Kids, get behind me," 13 ordered, and spread out their arms protectively. "Let's get ready for a fight," Aizawa muttered, and Izuku nodded in agreement. Everything was going horribly wrong. Izuku crouched against the wall, sweat dripping down his face. Blood was everywhere. Pain gripped Izuku again. An evil chuckle sounded, and Izuku struggled to look up, clutching his bleeding arm to his chest. "I told you, heroes. You cannot win." The hand guy laughed. "It's futile. And now you'll suffer the consequences." 4 or so hours earlier. "Hello, heroes. We have come for one important purpose, to destroy the symbol of peace, All Might." "Yes, that's right, we will kill All Might." The hand guy giggled uncontrollably. "Kurojiri," he said to a purple misty villain, who nodded affirmative and suddenly disappeared. "I'm not gonna let you hurt these kids," Aizawa growled, and took a massive leap down the long, steep stairway. He landed, and immediately began to fight the villains. He was doing pretty well, but Izuku knew he wasn't best at group fights with multiple targets. His quirk was better to use against a single opponent. Izuku was about to go down and help him, but suddenly the mist villain named Kurojiri reappeared behind the students, and opened up weird-looking portals. 13 tried to stop him, but he defeated them by using their own quirk against them. Facing the students, Kurojiri sucked them all into the portals, scattering them across the USJ and the different zones. Luckily, Izuku dodged and managed to escape before he got sucked in, and so did Aitsa with his quick reaction and speed. "Aitsa, you have to go back to UA to alert the pro heroes and All Might of the attack. Kaminari's signal was jammed," Izuku explained quickly. "But I can't leave you to fend for yourself. Running is cowardice. We're friends, and friends don't abandon each other in times of need," Aitsa protested. "Aitsa, you have to go. You're the only one who can get there quick enough." "I'll be fine, just believe in me." Kurojiri's mist twisted towards Izuku, and he dodged it at the last minute. Aitsa looked torn. "Go, Aitsa. Run," Izuku shouted, and Aitsa darted towards the entrance. "I won't let you get away." Kurojiri's mist crept towards Aitsa, but Izuku swiped his fist at it and it dispersed. "Run, Aitsa, run," Izuku yelled after him, and Aitsa successfully escaped down the path that led to UA. "What reference is this? Interesting," Kurojiri thought aloud at Izuku's behavior. Izuku darted towards him and lashed out his fist, which merely went straight through Kurojiri's misty form. "Fine then, I'll play with you," Kurojiri said, and Izuku dashed forward once more. Izuku punched at Kurojiri, then spun and kicked him, but his blows never connected, and just went straight through the mist. Izuku leapt back, analyzing his opponent. "What the hell are you?" Izuku said with slight surprise. Kurojiri didn't respond. Narrowing his eyes, Izuku thought of all the possible ideas. He must have some part of him that is a physical form, since that is essential. He must be cloaking that physical spot with his mist, since that's a weak point. Now all I need to do is figure out where. Izuku thought. "Well, if you're not going to make a move, I will," Kurojiri said, and lashed out with his mist. Izuku dodged it and transformed into a black panther. Black panthers are known for their impressive senses, and especially their amazing eyesight, earning them the name of the ghost of the forest. "'Tis true, I looked it up." Focusing, Izuku peered at Kurojiri, who seemed surprised that his opponent had turned into a cat. "Aha," Izuku thought to himself, spotting a solid form in the middle of the misty form. Izuku ran forward and lunged at Kurojiri's weak physical point, pinning him down. Ugh! Kurojiri wheezed from the sudden impact, but before he could use his mist to pluck Izuku off, Izuku harnessed lion strength in his now human-like fist and punched Kurojiri in the gut, knocking him out. Breathing heavily, Izuku tied Kurojiri up in some ropes he found along the wall of the USJ, probably sitting there for rescue purposes. He then ran over to 13, who was lying on the ground. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" "Don't worry about me, help erase her head," 13 gasped out, in obvious pain. Izuku was concerned, but he followed 13's directions and ran over to Aizawa to help him. Aizawa was doing pretty well with the villains, and their numbers had reduced by a lot, but he was beginning to tire. A villain jumped out from behind Aizawa, with a large claw on their hand. "I gotcha now, erase her head," the villain yelled, and Aizawa spun to meet his attacker, but 1 second too late. The villain's outstretched claws were inches away from Aizawa's face until Izuku came flying out of the air and kicked the villain in the face. "Oof," the villain gasped, and thumped to the ground, defeated. "Izuku, what are you doing here?" Aizawa questioned him, surprised and irritated. Aizawa punched a villain in gut, and sent an uppercut into another's jaw. "You aren't safe." 13's down, Aizawa. The students were scattered, but I sent Aiza to UA to alert them of the situation. 13 told me to assist you, and to be honest, I don't think you're in a position to complain, Izuku retorted, while roundhouse kicking a villain with an extra eyeball. "Ugh. Fine." Aizawa agreed reluctantly. "Die," shouted a villain with a big head, literally. "No thanks," Aizawa responded, swiftly delivering a kick to their head. "You're only agreeing because you know I'm right," Izuku shot back at Aizawa. A villain sprung out from behind him, hoping to catch him off guard, but Izuku back-kicked her without even bothering to glance behind him. "Yeah right," Aizawa defended, while jumping up to dodge a villain's acid strike, and drop-kicking them as he landed. Izuku chuckled to himself, and the two continued to beat up the villains with newfound force. Who are these guys? They're monsters, arguing with each other while facing a mass horde of villains. Aren't they intimidated? Or at least trying to focus somewhat, a villain with a wolf head exclaimed. "They can't beat all of us," a puddle yelled. "What are you?" a villain asked the puddle. "Hey," the puddle responded. "I'm a villain too. I just have an unfortunate quirk." "Shut up Aizawa and Izuku said together, stomping on the puddle. A large beast villain lumbered towards them. "Break in two," the villain yelled as he struck the ground with his monstrous strength. The ground broke up, making a fissure directed towards Aizawa and Izuku. "I don't like this guy," Izuku muttered, dodging. "You go behind, I go left," Aizawa asked, and Izuku nodded. Aizawa darted towards the beast, who roared in challenge. Aizawa would deliver sharp, quick jabs, and then dart away as the villain swung clumsily at Aizawa. "Pesky fly," the villain yelled, irritated and angry. Meanwhile, Izuku snuck behind the villain while he was distracted with Aizawa, and with practiced ease, Izuku threw a knife at the villain, which lodged into the beast's back. "Ard!" the villain roared in pain and outrage, clawing at his back. Aizawa jumped upward, getting to level with the villain's head. Izuku transformed into a tiger at the same time and leapt towards the villain's head. In unison, the two delivered a powerful kick to the monster's head, rendering the villain unconscious. They beat Beast Master. The remaining few villains cried out in shock and ran away, retreating. "You!" a dangerous voice sounded, it was coming from the hand guy. "You defeated one of my puppets, Shigaraki Tamura, calm down," a misty villain replied, soothing Shigaraki. "He was merely a pawn, you don't need him anyway. This changes nothing." "You're right, Kurojiri. Beastmaster's defeat doesn't matter in the end." Shigaraki scratched his neck absent-mindedly. "You," Izuku shouted, pointing a finger at Kurojiri. "I thought I defeated you and tied you up." The villain made an expression. "Once I came to, I easily used my mist to travel through the ropes." "You were defeated, Kurojiri?" the handy guy asked, surprised. "Yes, that boy is strong. He can transform into large cats, and probably smaller ones if needed. That could come in handy. Hand guy said. No pun intended. Enough chit-chat. Aizawa ran toward Shigaraki, cocking back his fist. No moo. Shigaraki said simply, and a huge bird monster thing appeared before him, intercepting the blow. Aizawa stumbled back, shaking his fist as if he hit rock. No moo. Shigaraki said, and narrowed his eyes maliciously. Kill him. Aizawa launched his scarf at the Nomu, but the Nomu sliced it in half with a clawed limb, rendering the scarf useless. Aizawa engaged in close combat, but although his blows connected, the Nomu didn't even flinch. Raising a hand, the Nomu struck Aizawa, sending him to the far wall and crashing him into the wall. The Nomu rushed forward at alarming speeds, and pounded Aizawa into the ground. Aizawa was now limp and bloodied, with a large gash under his eye. He tried to use his quirk, but it didn't work. What is this thing? Aizawa rasped, coughing up blood. The Nomu raised its fist back, but Izuku shifted into lion form and tackled the Nomu, making it slide slightly back. The Nomu moved. Shigaraki exclaimed, shocked at Izuku's power. The Nomu growled, and ran at Izuku. Izuku tried to deflect the punch with his arm, but the Nomu was too strong. With monstrous strength, the Nomu pounded Izuku into the wall, forming a large gash on Izuku's arm and a deep cut on the side of his jaw. This is the scar from the drawing I posted a few chapters back. If you want to see it, go back to chapter 6 arg. Izuku screamed in pain, clutching his arm. There was so much blood everywhere, his and Aizawa's. It was splattered on the walls and on the floor, painting everything red. Midoriya. Someone shouted. Todoroki. What happened? Todoroki. Stay away. You're no match. Izuku yelled back helplessly. This was not good. He couldn't let Todoroki get hurt. Todoroki stood no chance, not to this monster. The other students arrived, like Bakugo and Uraraka. Itza came back too, and brought many pro-heroes with him, including All Might. And All Might was not smiling. Not to worry, Aizawa and young Midoriya. I am here. All Might boomed grimly. All Might, Shigaraki yelled with insane glee. You're here. But it's too late. It is never too late, villain. All Might arrived right near them with one massive leap. The Nomu immediately backed away from Izuku and stood in front of All Might. What's wrong, All Might? You're not smiling. Shigaraki laughed. Nomu. Kill him bad. The Nomu screeched, and All Might and the Nomu engaged in rapid close combat. How can this Nomu withstand my strikes? I'm using one for all at 100%. Shigaraki giggled, as if he read All Might's mind. This Nomu has been designed to withstand and defeat you at your 100%, All Might. This Nomu has multiple quirks, including shock absorption. All Might grimaced, and got blown back by a particularly strong blow from the Nomu. Thanks for the info, villain. If it can handle 100%, then I'll just have to go over 100%. All Might struck with even stronger blows, quicker and more powerful. The Nomu shrieked in pain, and All Might cocked his fist back for the final blow. United States of Smash! All Might roared, striking the Nomu with incredible force. A huge shockwave blew everyone back, and the Nomu was launched into the air, and shot straight up, crashing into the high glass ceiling of the USJ and blowing far away, until it was just a speck. How can this be? Shigaraki roared with fury, scratching at his neck furiously. Come at me, villains. If you dare. All Might taunted as the smoke and dust slowly cleared. Arg! Arg! Shigaraki screamed. I was told you were supposed to be weaker. You are supposed to be dead by now. Shigaraki Tamura. Calm down. Kurojiri placed his misty hand on Shigaraki's shoulder. We will get another chance. Let's take that Izuku kid that you've taken an interest to and retreat. Yes, I suppose that is okay. Shigaraki turned to Izuku. Kurojiri, get him for me. No. Hell no. Izuku protested. This is, ugh. Blood dribbled from Izuku's mouth. The pro-heroes tried to rush over and protect him, but Kurojiri was too quick. He grabbed Izuku and walked backwards into the misty portal he created. Till another time, heroes. Kurojiri's voice echoed ominously, and he disappeared into the swirling purple portal. Midoriya, Todoroki and Itza yelled in anguish. But it was too late. Izuku was gone. Looks like I've got myself a new pet cat. Shigaraki smirked. This isn't the last of us, heroes. We are the League of Villains, and you won't be able to stop us. Shigaraki hopped back into the portal, and the misty portal closed up behind him. The villains were gone. Aizawa and 13 were wounded harshly, and Izuku was taken.